Welcome everybody to the April 12th Cross Lake City Council meeting. Let's stand for the pledge. Okay, first we have to approve the additions to the agenda, and I'm going to run through it. Under the consent calendar, we have a fire hall remodel cost dated 3/31/2021. And then we've got some additional bills for approval. Under the mayor and council members report, we got a letter dated April 9th from Andy Picard for a soffit wood restaining extra change order. And GH, we have a letter dated from Andy Picard for gutter and fascia installation. They found some rotten, so. G5A, a summary of the bond sales results. G5B, final resolution for issuance of sale of $865,000 in GO equipment certificates. Series 2021A, providing for their issuance and levying a tax for the payment thereof. G6 is an email dated from Minnesota Healthcare Consortium in regards to an administrator change effective 2022. In commission reports, 1C, a memo dated from April 12th from Chief Lee for surplus items for sale. And that's it, so I'll need a motion to approve that.
I move we approve the additions to the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are you doing roll call today, Shar, or no? Okay.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert-Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we have the consent calendar. Notice to the public, all items here are considered to be routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion.
Public forum.
Oh, public forum, I'm sorry. Our first public forum. I guess I'm going to open that up. Action may or may not be taken on any issue raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issue will be placed on the agenda of the next regular council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. At the discretion of the mayor, each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. Is there anybody out there that wants to come up to public forum?
Mr. Porter.
Sure, Mr. Porter, come on up. Welcome. Haven't seen you for a while.
It's been 3 years. And it's the same subject, too. I'm Clay Porter. I'm a resident of Cross Lake with my wife, Dion, and children. We are concerned about a change in the conditional use permit law in the land use tables that occurred apparently in the fall of last year, that reinstated the allowance for commercial storage in our R5 residential lots. And we've come to ask, I've come to ask, I think Mike Stone is here for the same purpose, to ask that the council reinstate its ban on that. You may recall that in 2017, there were a number of applications made to planning and zoning to add commercial storage. There was going to be one project that had over 200 structures. It was up County Road 3,
Correct.
North of town. A lot of controversy about that, a lot of input from the public, and as a result of what happened, the city council took a fairly unusual measure by enacting a moratorium on that sort of commercial development in residential zones. In the interim, this council, by unanimous vote, adopted, I believe it was ordinance 343, that removed commercial storage from the land use tables for residential R5. That again was a unanimous vote to do that. In that same ordinance, you can see that it terminated the moratorium, again very very unusual measure taken. That was in 2017. In the fall of this year, or earlier, maybe the late summer of last year, excuse me, that was put back in. It was allowed by vote of this council, and I don't know how much consideration was given to it. There was not a lot publicized about it. I didn't hear about it, and I'm not questioning the procedures, the notice procedures and so forth. It just wasn't something that was well discussed. When you read the minutes, there's not really any discussion specifically about why that is. I have heard the reason it was put back in was so that there could be control over the private development, particularly pole barns, by private individuals. I'm not aware of that being a problem. I can't find any such problem anywhere. I can't find a record of any such problem, and I can't imagine that by allowing an application for a conditional use for commercial purpose, that would somehow correct a problem with private commercial pole barns, which again doesn't exist. So that's not a thing. That's purportedly the reason, but it's just not a thing. What we have discovered and what we can see from the record in the minutes, when I say the record, if you go back and read the minutes, which is all I have to do, aside from being participant in what happened in 2017, you can see quite clearly that if that is allowed, if the commercial use for commercial storage in residential areas allowed, they do it. The commercial entities will build them, and they will come to planning and zoning. And planning and zoning, it seems to me, when they get that, seems somewhat hamstrung by saying, well, this is a commercial use. So we end up with that. We have one already built across the street from me on County Road 3, and even though there are other reasons why that shouldn't develop any further, the effort is being made under this new the fact that it's now part back into the land use table. So it's important to us. It's important to the people that care about the residential development of Cross Lake. That's one of the few corridors that is still within walking distance of town center that is available for residential development. People do not want to live next door to a large commercial storage development. And I'd say one other point, and then I'll sit down. That this is not an issue that only Cross Lake has had come before it. Nisswa had it, Pequot Lakes had it, Breezy Point had it, Walker had it. All of those locations don't allow this. This was pointed out when this council unanimously voted to take it out in 2017. That was one of the points that was made in the minutes, and that's in the minutes that you will see. It's perfectly authorized for you to do this. It's been done before. We'd simply ask that you take it out again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Kolstad, could I ask you to respond to that?
You can ask me to do anything.
I mean, I don't recall how that happened.
I'll raise my hand. I don't either. So there's two of us here.
Okay. In 2017, you took it out of the ordinance. We had a lot of people asking for it to come back in. During our meetings that we had, the joint meetings between the council and the planning commission in January of 2019, we discussed putting the commercial storage back into rural residential areas and even in shoreland areas. It was decided as a group that yes, you were interested in putting it back in because people were building their storage buildings, and then we were finding out afterwards that on the side they were renting them out. And we thought it would be a way to control those people that were building what they told us was going to be personal storage, and all of a sudden now it's they need a conditional use because they're renting it out. And there's ways to control the hours of operation, screening, anything else that goes along with what you can control with a conditional use, including denying the application, which is what happened just a few weeks ago when we had the individual that's across from Mr. Porter's house asked to put another building up. They denied the application and they said no. He has some things that he has to do to clean up the operations of the existing place right now, but we can get into that individually if you want to. It was unanimous when we went through the process that you guys wanted to make that change. It was written into the change. We posted it. It was actually public noticed twice, and it was put out on our website, and it was there for over 6 months, because originally, when we were going to do the work in the February, March timeframe, I was told, nope, let's wait. We want to do it in the summer when more people are here. So we let it sit. We reposted it again in July. It was posted at your meeting that you had when you guys approved it. So it was out there. It was out there quite a bit more than normal. And we got 0 comments from anyone. So nobody took the time to go out and look at what was going on and ask questions about it. We got 0 comments. So you passed putting it back in unanimously also.
Yeah, I'm just kind of questioning a little bit how it was identified or something, because.
I don't remember.
It was specific. It was one of those red line items that we were putting commercial rental storage in. And what the planning commission decided was, if your building is less than 600 square feet, you can't rent it out to anyone. It's yours and you have to use it your own. If it's greater than 600 square feet of building space, then you can ask for a conditional use permit to rent out some of that space, maybe to recoup costs or whatever it may be.
You know, they were coming in and getting over-the-counter permits, and they were building them with no guidelines, no restrictions, nothing.
So we did that as a control
We did it
measure.
as a control.
So if we found someone that was now had built it and said it was for personal use and now they're renting it out, we have a means to say, you have to come in and get a conditional use permit, and then you can place restrictions on it. Or you can just flat out say no. The commission has the opportunity to say, no, this is not the place to have a commercial rental building. You cannot rent it out to anyone. And then if they try to rent it out beyond that, then fines would ensue.
See, that was what I thought we did in 2017, and I missed this last
Oh,
summer.
2017, we took it out completely, and it was not
That's
allowed.
the way that I thought we were running.
Yeah, it was not allowed at all in residential areas. So it was a means of, people were trying to get around it.
Right. But we have people over here that have purchased a lot of land, residents, and I can certainly understand a building as big as what's down there. If they're thinking about putting a home there,
Yes,
they aren't gonna do it.
that's correct.
Nobody's gonna buy the land.
Yep.
And
And
it'll
you
sit
have
that
ways, you have ways of restricting and
Right.
saying, okay, instead of the 35-foot setback from the road right away, you need to be 150 feet back.
But
And they can restrict the size of the building.
yeah, I think the whole move at the time was that, and I know John has been involved in this, where there's just a shortage of housing. And if we do allow something like this, there's gonna be shortage of land to build housing. And we need, that's a perfect place over there with, you know, a lot of land.
And if you guys want to put it back in, the restrictions, we'll start the process.
I would, we can decide up here tonight, can't we?
What motivated us to change it, though? That's kind of what I'm curious about.
Because we
Were
had
they
a-
getting the buildings anyway? and so
We had
this
the one
was
application
a means of
for the
control?
one large building, the 60 by 180-foot building that's there. And everybody sees it when you drive up 3 and you get past the golf course. On your left, there's this big, huge building that he rents out. Just to the south of that, on the same side of the road, someone had come in, was planning on coming in with an application to put in like 200 individual rental units. And that's why you imposed the moratorium, and that's why we changed the ordinance so that that wouldn't go in that area, which was residential.
And what we tried to do is, so a resident can have a pole building, storage building up, if he has enough land, right?
Yes, correct.
1,200 square feet.
No.
If you're up to 2 acres, you can have 1,200 square feet per building. From 2 to 4, you can have 2,500 square feet, and more than 4 acres, you're only restricted to 25% of the lot size for buildings.
And if you put living quarters in them, you're exempt. from
Correct.
the-
If you have
from permits.
actually, if it's your primary residence, your primary dwelling, there is no size restriction. But if you're putting an accessory structure with guest quarters, you're restricted to 1,200 square feet with, depending on 700 or 900 square feet of living space inside of it.
But today you're saying, the way it's written today, we can have residential areas that are zoned residential, and we're gonna allow commercial operations in a residential area.
With a conditional use permit, yes. So
And why do we have I mean, this is, to me, this is, I just soon end this and not allow it, because it's gonna drive no investment in Cross Lake for homes.
and again, that's up to you guys. You're the one deciding vote on all this, so if that's what you want to do, we certainly can proceed down that
What I would
road.
like to do, after talking to a couple residents on that.
Could I let Mr. Porter come back up? He had something else he wanted to add to it.
Before he talks,
Okay.
Dave, one of the problems was, if they have the 5 acres, they can still put up this great big pole barn for personal use. So whether it's commercial or personal, you're still staring at that great big building. So if you want to do that, you have to restrict the size of the structures that go up, no matter the acreage. Do you understand what I'm?
No.
Just
I'm
in,
just down to residential and industrial.
But if I buy a
commercial.
5-acre lot and I want to put up a 10,000 square foot personal use structure that's 30 feet high, I can.
Right, but you can't run a business out of it. We've had that on West Shore
Unless
Drive.
unless I don't tell you.
Well, and that's the part I'm trying to stop right there.
Here's the problem is John doesn't have the staff. We will have to hire people to go out and police that.
But it's
So
not,
it's part of the debate, and I guess we'll leave it there for now.
well, can I just respond to that? Because there's a big disconnect in what's being said, and I know John is telling the group what the purported reasons were, and I think he's accurately told you what those were. The disconnect is that by allowing people to pay the $500 and come in and get a conditional use permit, you don't control private property. This is, what is being put out there is that we need to somehow control how people build pole barns on their private property. And that in order to get control over the way people build their private pole barns, we're gonna put this commercial use permit in, and that'll give us the ability to do setbacks and hours of service. That's what he just told you. And those two don't make any sense. When this was put back in, there was not a flood of applications saying, I've got a pole barn I want to put under your control. And there's no reason why they would. If somebody's violating a private property use with a pole barn, which I'm not aware of that being a problem. I'm not aware of complaints about it. I'm not aware of, as you drive around town, you don't see it. But I am aware of this. And I have seen this quite clearly and quite directly across the street in my neighborhood, which I consider a neighborhood. A growing neighborhood, families moving in, houses, residents, is that people are trying, every time you let this happen, they want to do commercial, corporate use boat storage, commercial storage. So if you allow it, they will apply it, and planning and zoning will say, there's nothing we can do about it. That does not give you control. It promotes commercial development of this sort. And one thing that will increase commercial development of this sort is commercial development of this sort. That's just an absolute certainty. So that, number one, the reason this being put out there just doesn't work. Number two, we don't have a problem with how people use their private property. I could build probably a dozen pole barns on my property. I don't build a dozen pole barns on my property. Why would I do that? Now, if you tell a corporation they can make money building a dozen pole barns, they will. And we'll never get free of this as long as we put it in our conditional use and say you can do that. And so this is really a big deal. And it's exactly what you said. Do we want to protect residential, the residential character of the areas that we've zoned residential? And if we do, then we need to do. The reason, by the way, is just one other point that I don't question that the notice that was filed in the Northland Press is what you're supposed to file. It doesn't tell you you're going to do this. Nowhere in the minutes is it ever mentioned that we're gonna put commercial storage back in the land use tables. Now, maybe something was said that's not in the minutes. It's certainly not in the notice. So the fact that nobody was responding to, we're gonna look at the land use tables as a notice, should not surprise anybody. It shouldn't be surprised that you didn't even know that it occurred. I didn't know it had occurred. So please,
Mr. Porter, I just want to say I appreciate you coming up here, and I also want to say that I totally agree with you.
thank you.
I would like you to be part of the group that decides what the final outcome is for any kind of change.
Be glad to.
You know, because I think we need that guidance or that thought. So I really would kind of pin you down and say, jump in there and help us figure it out.
Count me in.
Okay.
Tell me
And
when.
so I think we got to refer it back to the Planning and Zoning Board to take another close look at this. And in the meantime, can we make a bold little statement here and put a little moratorium on any buildings like that that are going to go in?
Please. Thank you.
I'll
That
make
that would be great.
motion.
Okay, so we'll have the Planning and Zoning Board discuss this, and hopefully you can make it with it and be included in that discussion.
I will be there.
Because it's clarity. It's understanding what we're doing. And if we did that, you know, I'm going to plead ignorance here and say I didn't know I was doing that, or I didn't know there was another option, or something to that effect. But I'm in total agreement with you.
Thank you.
Yep. So I want to formulate a motion here that says we're going to put this back to the Planning and Zoning Board to take a closer look at commercial pole barns. And in the meantime, Mr. Person, can we put a moratorium on it temporarily until they figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't ready for this tonight, but we'll figure out procedurally. I don't recall off the top of my head the steps to do a moratorium, but if there's a vote, three of you saying we should do that, John and I will figure that out.
Okay.
Now, I'll second that motion. So you're talking about commercial pole buildings in a residential area. That's what we're trying to, because that's what was removed.
I believe so.
There
Yeah.
was, in that box on that table, it said you could build before we made the change. And then we took it out, so it means that you cannot build a commercial storage building, pole building, in a residential area.
Yeah.
We have other ordinances say you can't really run it.
Put a moratorium on it until we decide what the best thing. So is that,
To do that, you'll have to put a moratorium, I think, on all pole barns in residential. So you separate them out, you can discuss it.
well, is that true?
Well, that's a policy question. I mean, to Mr. Herzog's point, people were, I think the argument is even, they were calling it personal, but they were using it commercial. So whether you want to broaden the moratorium to both until you figure out a better ordinance, or just limit it to commercial, that's up to the council to decide.
I'm not sure that we can specify no pole buildings because we don't enforce the building code, so we can't go in and say a type of building. We can only, I mean, I don't think you can just say a blanket, no pole buildings.
If we say no storage buildings over 1,200 square feet?
You certainly could. Yeah, you could just say no commercial rental units allowed, whether it's a building or individual units in residential areas.
Yeah.
That's what you did last time.
Okay.
Yeah, until this is
And
fixed.
hopefully, we can take a quick look at this and come up with something in a short term.
But if you want to regulate the type of building that's going up, you have to adopt and enforce the building code.
No, we don't want to do that, but if that, Shar, does that motion make sense to you? Okay. So that's a motion. Do we have a second on
I'll second that.
it? Okay. Shar?
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp. John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, that was a good one. Start out the meeting. Come on up.
Mike Stone, 35878 Cross Lake. Just appreciate you guys doing that. I'm not going to say much more than what Clay already said, but if you go around town, Ideal, Breezy Point, there's no shortage of pole buildings. There's a bumper crop of pole buildings out for commercial use. You can just see them going up everywhere. What we are short of is developable land for neighborhoods in our community. I mean, if you go to the map and try to point out big parcels or areas where that could happen, I know on our neck of the woods, north on 3, there is one of those areas, and we want to do everything we can to protect that, because nobody in their right mind would want to put a residential area next to a pole barn farm. So anyway, thank you for taking that action, and look forward to participating in the future too. So.
Yeah, jump in on that conversation if you want, Mike. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to come up to public forum? Brenda, you want to come up?
My name is Brenda Britton. My address is 38912 South Landing Road, Cross Lake, Minnesota. Tonight I want to voice a concern about the building permit process. I've had my first experience, or in the process of my first experience, and it's been frustrating, not customer-centric, and I feel a waste of taxpayer money. My process started out on April 5th. I went into the City Hall to get a building permit to enclose an existing porch and build a fence. A person at City Hall stated that John and Cheryl were both out that week and said I could take their cards and then call them regarding the request. I did call and talk to John Kolstad and spoke to him about the request for the porch and fence. I then, on the 6th, emailed John my permit application, associated documentation that was required, so he could look at those documents while he was out of the office to make sure that this process was efficient. I then also emailed John and received an email stating that everything looked to be in order, and that he was going to be back in the office on Thursday, and that I could come in on Thursday to review the permit, or the option of getting the permit type thing. I was to come in after 10 a.m. on Thursday, and that I just responded, hey, great, fantastic. I'd see you Thursday after lunch. I arrived at City Hall at 1:15 to discuss my application with John, and had the idea that the permit would be issued at that time. We went over our documents line by line. John was referring to the interactive GPS map and could see my specifics of my property and what I was asking to do. John had no concerns with my permit request as was submitted, and stated the fees would be $125 for the building, $75 for the fence. I wrote the check, and I assumed I would be walking out of City Hall with my permit. John said that he couldn't come out until Monday, today. I sent an email to John saying, hey, could you please come out in the morning? You know, I'd really like to get this process going. Could you be my first stop? John replied that he couldn't. He had a personal situation, but he would be out in the afternoon. I emailed John, please come out as soon as you're available. I'll make myself available and we can go through what needs to be done for the site visit. At about 4:04, John emailed his apologies saying he would not make it today and that he'd be out tomorrow afternoon. And that it was a busy morning, couldn't get out till after lunch. I emailed John, please, is there any way to come out yet today or the first thing on your way into the office tomorrow? John stated he couldn't get out today, went on to say that there was a deadline for the next Planning Commission meeting and that at least he had one additional person coming in for the application yet this afternoon. He stated tomorrow morning they have the development review meeting all morning, stated he couldn't come out until tomorrow afternoon, and he apologized for the delay and did say that there's 10 days to act on the permit process. And this was one of the few instances that he couldn't get out immediately. I guess I'd like to summarize the situation. You know, we as taxpayers, we are the customer of this process. This has been my only experience in dealing with a permit process, but I'd like to make the following points. I felt lacking in the customer service. I understand we've got 2 people in this department type of thing, both being out. And again, I think we should always have at least 1 person in the office to handle incoming permit requests. If my documents were all in order, as John had stated, and the interactive map confirmed at my visit all the guidelines were met, why couldn't a permit have been issued at that time? Why was a site visit necessary? I feel that through this process, you have to prove yourself innocent before a permit will be issued. It's like walking on eggshells. And, I'm not quite sure, that that's the city we want to be. I mean, we should be an inviting city. We want to grow the city. And by having a arm's length approach to this process, it really is a turnoff to people coming in and trying to better their properties or, do things they want to do as a resident of Cross Lake. I'll be the first one to say here, I was very hesitant to come tonight to speak on the subject as I still don't have my permit. My fear of coming in tonight and stating these facts with my experience hopefully won't hinder my permit process. If the permit could have been issued back on 4/8 when all the documents in the interactive map confirmed things were in order, I wrote the check and the permit could have been handed to me. My suggestion is that this needs to be a service to the Cross Lake citizens, and that also, why can't we make this an online process where it could be, the permit could be issued online, and only when extenuating circumstances dictate that a site visit be made, that then be the case, rather than 100% at the time, especially when it's, a cut and dried situation. I just like to say that, again, we're the customers of this process as tax-paying citizens, and I just hope that the council would review the process and the accountability of what this process does for the citizens.
Ms. Britton, I just have one question for you.
Yes.
Are there any variance issues at all with the project that you're proposing to do? I mean, is there?
No.
Everything is in the guidelines? No?
Yes.
Nothing that?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I apologize for your delay. Is anybody else? Okay, let's move on to the consent calendar then. All items here are considered to be routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so request. Did you guys all get a chance to look at it?
Mayor,
Yep.
this one addition to the consent agenda, Fire Hall remodel costs dated March 31st.
Correct?
Are we discussing that at all, or I don't understand why it's on the consent agenda?
For discussion? We could
Well,
pull it out of there.
I just wondered, are we going to talk about the Fire Hall costs? They're on the other part of the agenda. I don't know what this means, that just the costs are
Well, maybe we
updated.
should pull that out and set it off to the side when we're talking about the fire hall. I don't disagree with
This
that.
has been a monthly item that's been on the consent calendar.
Just
So it's
reoccurring.
just an update. But if you want to pull it, you can, but it's been monthly on the consent.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were going to be discussing it. Otherwise,
Are you good with that, Marcia?
yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Okay.
I've got a couple things that I would like to, I don't know that we need to pull them out of here at all, but our legal attorney has got a couple, what I'd like to do is pull all of the legal bills to pay so that we can see the invoices and the statements on them. And I guess we don't have to do that in this meeting, but I would like to see the broken down statements. So can we go ahead?
You have one of them, but,
I have
yeah.
one, correct. But there's two more that I don't have, but I just, yeah. So could we go ahead and approve it, but yet pull them out? I'd just like to see them.
So they're going to remain in the consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long, yeah, I just want to get a
that's
copy of
fine. I
the
just-
statement so that I can review it.
So I have it clear in my head.
There's one more in here for a Crow Wing County reimbursement for a door repair. Ted, should I ask you that question? It almost seemed like this happened just a few months ago. We had something similar to this for a door repair.
I believe it's still the same door, just finalizing the door, if I remember right.
Well, it seems like it to me, but it was a few months ago that this came across.
It's just taken that long to get it through the process, the billing and all that.
So we're not paying it twice, we're
No,
just
It's just the insurance has come now, and so it's all,
so it's the same deal.
it's the same door.
So we got the insurance for it?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, that being said, do we have a motion to approve the or the bills?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar item, including the additions.
I second it.
Second by Mr. Andrews.
And that's subject to the attorney bills being pulled. You're not approving them, right?
No, I actually am approving. them.
Okay.
I'd just like to look at them. I'd like to have a copy,
Okay.
and they're not in here, right? Yeah. Okay, motion and second, yep.
John Andrews,
Yes.
Marcia Zeber Bowles,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes?
Motion carries.
Okay, next we have critical issues. We had John Forney was gonna give us an update, but we have postponed that until May. Next, we have a public hearing. Who's gonna take that? You wanna take that, Brad, or?
We have something to put on the screen?
Nothing?
I'm able to talk about it, but I don't have anything on the screen.
Okay.
Sorry about that. There was a survey, I've seen it, but I don't have it in front of me.
Brad, I can't hear you.
Sorry. They put it on?
Thanks.
Here, I've got it now. I'll go to the center. Oh, you said it's not working? Then that doesn't help.
Oh,
Well, I'll describe it. That's just not as good as a picture. And then the purpose of this meeting is, we did give notice to the neighbors, and make sure we ask for public comment to see if there's any concerns from the neighbors. But the petition included a survey that was done by Lakes Area Surveying, and basically, it is one of these platted accesses to the lake, like we've talked about many times before. This one is off of Whitefish Avenue. The access goes to Whitefish Lake. But it's not a total vacation. It's like a couple of ones we have approved in the past. That doesn't mean you need to approve this one. But it's not eliminating the access, it's just moving the access. So the lake access would remain, it's just being shifted. I assume the intent of that is so that it just, they can do it in a way that they can develop the property in the way they want because they're relocating where the access is, but it's still going to be there.
so just for an illustration, Brad, I'm gonna hold this up for the people. The yellow is where the access is to date. They wanna move it 27 feet so that they're balancing out the size of the two lots.
It's going from where it is in yellow, and maybe, are you the applicant? You can probably explain it better than I can, but yes, it's shifting to where it is in pink.
Our neighbor wanted to sell, I'm sorry, Neil Bailey, 11491 Whitefish Avenue. Wanted to sell us a piece of his property. There is a access road that borders my land. So we want to move it 26 feet to the west, leave the access road there, but be able to buy part of his land. That was the purpose.
Yeah.
Looks like maybe we're finding a creative way to show a picture here. we've described it, but a picture is so much better than
Yeah, it is.
describing
I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. So they're both gonna have like 75-foot
Right.
frontage lots or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It leaves him with a sellable lot, makes mine closer to a sellable lot,
Yeah.
by code anyway.
And the reason I kind of would like to talk about this a little bit is we decided to give some of these accesses away, but we're gonna be very cautious by doing so, and this is not giving one away.
Correct.
It's just moving it 26 feet. The topography, the elevation is gonna be just as good as the original one, nothing changes.
Correct.
Yeah, so,
So, Mr. Mayor, TJ's got it in the screen now, or for both the council and the public, but if you can't read the smaller print, the yellow is the existing, and the pink is the proposed. So it would move south, or shift it to the south, like the applicant was trying to explain.
and Mr. Rutger, I believe, has got the lot to the south that's in the light dotted line,
Yes, it's actually to the west of us,
Or the
but yes,
west?
that is correct.
so. Okay, and I think all commissions moved it forward with
Yes.
a positive.
Everyone
Yeah.
has approved it.
So I'll leave, if anybody's got any comments.
So
or
before
questions
there's a motion, the council should make sure it's good the applicant came up so they could help us explain what's going on. But you might want to ask more questions of the applicant, and we also want to make sure we ask anyone in the crowd or on Zoom if they have any comments before you make a motion to approve or deny.
on it. Okay, well, I'd just soon ask the public if there's any comments first. And then
Certainly.
maybe I'll ask you. So does anybody in the audience have any comment to make on this?
Behind you.
Tom?
Does this need to be recorded, and who pays for the recording of the movement?
Everything is covered, well, first of all, we paid for the survey, we paid for all the parts of the survey, we'll be paying for anything that has to do with the septic and so on. The city itself, within the $1,000 that we pay for the application, covers part of the fees and so on. So,
He did a pretty good job explaining, but yes, part of the application fee goes so that we know how, or not we know how, so that we can cover, that there's expenses to serve notice to the DNR and to the neighbors. And then to answer his question, if it's approved, yes, we do need to record this because it's like a legal transfer of title. But that's all being covered, the costs for that are all being covered in the application fee.
And you've discussed that and agreed to it, and it's all good.
Well, we didn't really discuss it, it's just, in our ordinance, we have an application fee, and the intent of that fee is to cover those kinds of costs, so that we have money to do it.
Does it cover the cost? You paid 1,000 or 500?
we paid 1,000.
Okay, and the fee schedule, where does that come into play when it's $500 on there for council consideration? I didn't see on the fee schedule whether it was ever $1,000. How do you figure that?
I don't know, I don't have the fee schedule. I just know that they have to pay a fee and that covers the legal and administrative cost to finish it.
Right. It apparently was $500, but it went up to 1,000. And fortunately for me, I was after it moved up, so.
They saw you coming, huh?
Yeah, timing's everything.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions?
Is there anyone else in the crowd or on Zoom that has a concern or question before we close the public hearing, and then the council can go back and ask any final questions of the applicant, and then in the end, discuss it among yourselves, and then somebody hopefully brings a motion to either, I guess, accept, table, or deny, one of the three things.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to close the public input. Nobody coming forward? What do we think? I think it's a,
Well, it gives them close to a buildable lot.
and both lots are joined together, so they can't be subdivided, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no subdivision issues or anything.
But it makes a more usable lot for them.
Yeah.
And I believe the other lot is still a legal lot
Correct.
of record.
That's the reason we did it like we did. And it's, from a tax perspective, the city gains a little bit because now I'm paying the full boat because I have some buildings on my land. So the tax rate will go up for that small portion.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Ready, good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Yep.
How much detail do we have to get into? But I'll make a motion, we
Dave, you're actually approving this resolution.
on the
Yeah.
back page, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the motion, or the draft resolution hopefully speaks for itself, once you have answered enough questions so you know what you're doing and why.
Yep.
But it's not, you don't need to make up anything, just say you make a motion to approve a resolution in the packet for the vacation.
Yep, and that's what I was saying. I'll make a motion to approve resolution vacating the discussed property pertaining to the Baileys on Manhattan Beach Second Edition. on White
I second it.
Fish Avenue. So.
I second it.
So where is the easement being recorded if we're vacating this easement now? So where's
So
the,
if you approve it, then it's my job to make sure it gets recorded at the county recorder. So when you do a title search on any of these properties, you'll see what happened. Is that what your question was?
yeah, I just want to make sure that we do record the new easement, because this resolution says vacating the easement. Where does it say that we're transferring the easement 20
Yep,
feet?
no, good point, but the legal description for the order of completion, it's called, we'll move it, is what we're doing. We're not, like the discussion was done, we're not eliminating, we're moving. So I'll make sure that I don't have that draft, the form I'm gonna record, but to be clear, that's the action everybody wants, right? That was the motion, is to go from I forget the colors now, but
Red.
the yellow to the pink.
So you good there, Marcia? We got a motion and a second?
Yeah,
Is it
I
the-
guess so.
Isn't it the third paragraph covering what your concern is? It says, whereas this vacation will not be recorded or effective until an easement. of the
yeah,
city for Lake-
there's not an easement in this resolution being recorded. It's not mentioning the easement where where the easement's being moved to. It's saying we're vacating the easement, and it's not going to be recorded until we have the easement in place. That's what my understanding of this is.
True, I want to make sure that we don't do one without the other, but I'm loud and clear, I've heard from the intent of the council, that's my job to make sure we don't screw it up. We're not going to get rid of one without having the other one in place, if that answers it
So we're
better.
vacating one and creating another one.
Yes,
So you're going to bring another resolution at the next meeting recording the new easement? Is that what you're doing?
I
Or are
can
you
if you'd
just
like to
going
see
to-
it, I was just going to administratively make sure that we have the access in the new location as part of this proceeding. Based on the survey, I've got a description from it, I just got to turn that into a recordable document. The survey gives me a legal of the pink.
Okay, so we'll record that so that that we know that the easement's just being moved
Yes.
in the minutes, so that we have. Well, I just want to make sure that it's recorded in the minutes that,
I can
We moved
definitely get a copy of the recorded document, so and maybe make it part of the consent agenda it'll be recorded before your next meeting. Would that be helpful?
yes, it would.
Okay, motion second, we're good?
John Andrews,
Yes.
Marcia Zeber Bowles.
Yes,
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's,
Mr. Mayor, if I could interrupt for one moment. I see Jason Murray, our bond advisor, is on the line. We've been having trouble trying to connect with him tonight because he's been traveling. So if I could move up item number 5 from my report to your first item, that would be really appreciated by our bond advisor. If that's acceptable to everyone.
Go ahead. Yep.
Jason, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry for the connection troubles here as I'm traveling, but appreciate the opportunity. A couple things from today. We did have a successful sale this morning on your bond for the proposed fire truck. The city was able to, with Mike's work was able to secure the AA plus rating and affirm that with S&P here over the last couple weeks. So that helped as we moved into our bond sale. What you have in front of you is basically the summary of bids. We had five bidders. The low bid was UMD Bank NA at a net interest cost, net effective interest rate of 0.8743. That's up a little bit from my preliminary. As you all know, treasuries have been moving up here the last month, and we saw a little bit of uptick on the net interest cost. The good news is that this bond was sold at premium. Mainly, they sold it. They oversold basically the bonds, mainly to lock in higher interest rates. Nobody wants to, from an investor standpoint, nobody would want to get stuck with a low interest bond or security, mainly from the standpoint of trading it in the future. So they paid a premium, and they're bringing that premium back into the city. They're basically providing $46,669,000 of bond premium, and that basically reduces the city's cash. If you recall, originally the city was going to put roughly about $49,000 in from the summer firefighting contract. That basically reduces that contribution, the city's contributions, just over $5,000. So that premium's being offered back to the city, and the net gain or the net positive to that is it reduces the city's cash contribution. So as you can see, it's a seven-year note. Payments range from about $120,000 to $125,000 over the life of it, and over the life of the bond. And again, the net effective interest rate was 0.8743.
So just one comment on the premium. What that means is what Jason had mentioned is we were planning to use some of the money from the Oregon fire trip, what was left from that. This actually works out really well for us because we haven't received that money yet, so we don't have to cash flow it. We're able to cover that with the premium on the bond proceeds. What that does is when we do ultimately receive that money from the mutual aid we provided to the Oregon fires, we'll be able to deal with that at that time, and whether you want to set it aside or use it towards another project, or you can make that decision at that time. But I think we did all right with this. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, no, thanks, Mike. No, that was a very strong result today. And again, I want to thank Mike and his staff for their work on the ratings. There's a lot of work in putting together the official statement, and then also participating in that S&P ratings call. So thanks, Mike, for all your work and your staff's work in helping with that. So much appreciated. With that, Mayor and Council, there is a resolution from Taft Law Firm that you have in your packet. If you so choose to move forward with this bonding, I'd ask that the Council support that resolution.
Make a motion that we do support this resolution.
Do we have a second on it?
Yes.
Aaron, second. Any discussion?
Excellent interest rate, no doubt about that. Thank you.
Marcia Zeber Bowles,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council. Thanks again, Mike, for all your work.
All right, thank you. Okay, we can
right.
go back to your report, Dave.
Okay.
Thank you.
F1, Mr. Saley, I'm actually surprised this got entered into this because he didn't sign it. Okay. I'm going to read your letter, and then come on up. We'll have a little discussion. It's titled Backup Maintenance at Pinewood Cemetery. This letter is to address the mayor, Cross Lake City Council, and to all who maintain the Pinewood Cemetery. I would like to see the property upkept around the headstone and basins on which they sit. The cemetery is lacking weed control on the cemetery grounds. I have brought my own trimmer and blower to clean up the area around my family's gravesite quite regularly. I shouldn't have to do this. It should be the Pinewood Cemetery's maintenance program responsibility. I have noticed in the last 4 years since my parents have passed that the maintenance isn't the best. I talked with several other people and they agree with me. Lack of proper maintenance. I'm also presenting pictures as shown. Actually, I probably don't have to read that whole thing. Let's talk about it more than read it. How many signatures did you have there, Bruce?
I think
30?
it was 21.
21?
21 plus for somewhere in there.
This is not the first time we've talked about the cemetery.
No, sir.
I don't know, TJ, can you put some of those pictures up? I think maybe the people so they could see them. But the bottom line of it is I totally agree with you. We gotta respect the cemetery, you know? We gotta have it a place. Funding it is gonna be a little bit of an issue. I just wanna talk about this a little bit. I think currently a grave site charge is $250, is that correct?
For a resident, yes.
For a resident. And 30 years ago, they were probably $20.
No, probably 75.
75, 30 years ago?
First ones I bought were 75, yes.
Okay, so the bottom line is how do we pay somebody to go and take care of the cemetery? One thought I had, I guess we kind of had it, is do we do a maintenance thing for people in the cemetery? You don't want to pay
Well,
$30 a year?
I made a few calls this past week in the cemeteries around the general area. Emily, Breezy Point, Jenkins, Pequot, Nisswa, Crosby, 50 Lakes. 50 Lakes doesn't have one, but all the above, basically they're resident and they're not a resident is different than what we're paying here. Some are higher, some are lower. But none of them have a maintenance fee. It's all combined in the initial cost of the lot or plot, whatever you want to say.
So then the burden goes on the general fund or the taxpayers?
Yes.
And the community decides what kind of condition they want to keep the graveyard in?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the people I talked to, I walked around the cemetery and looked at the names that I recognized, and that's the people that I went after to see if they would sign this. And they all were informed of it, or wanted it to improve the maintenance on it. And like I said, I can see that it's not getting trimmed. I even went around and did some measurements. The smallest area was 12 inches on up. Well, it's hard to, I mean, you're using probably zero turns up here, which are 72 inches wide, maybe 60 inches wide. You make some good passes, but when it comes around the headstones or footstones or whatever we have, there is some trimming. You can't get away from it, and it's not getting done. If you look at the pictures there, you can't even see the base pads, the concrete, and then you got the headstones, and you can see them, but you can see that it's not getting done. I don't expect it done every time, but it would be nice that you could actually see most of the footstone or part of even the headstones. I mean, you can't even see the base. I realize when it rains, it dries up, that happens, but weeds still grow. So whatever we can do to improve it would be, most of the people would really like it and really appreciate it.
I believe we've talked about a sprinkler system, but then that's just gonna increase the mowing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're there yet, but I think we could do more maintenance. Even when they dug my mother's grave, the base underneath the headstone cracked. They replaced it, but now it's settling. I put a level on it. It's on a 2-foot level. It's already a whole bubble off.
Yeah.
And that's been 4 years and it's settled now.
So I did talk to staff, I'll just leave it at that a little bit. There are some rules at the cemetery, what you can and cannot do.
Right.
And a lot of people do the things they cannot do.
Right.
Leave a lot of stuff. So we kind of briefly talked about mowing on the second Monday of the month, or the second and the fourth, or whatever the schedule is. and that people have to have everything removed so they're clear to go. And if they don't, then they'll remove it and discard it, throw it away.
Well, yeah, I've had a shepherd's hook stolen, and I replaced that, or misplaced, whatever. I replaced it. I've had other people tell me the same thing. I understand now, another friend of mine who signed that, her husband had passed away, and I believe now you have, like shepherd hooks and stuff like that have to be inside or combined with the headstone, I believe. But I mean, when we got our headstone, we didn't have that back then. So, I mean, yes, things are changing. We want to work with you people on this, but we'd like, you
So
know.
that's what I'm asking, a little dialogue is how do we get there? How do we do it? Yeah. You know, and we could just as a community say we want to have a nice graveyard and
Well,
budget
yes.
money for it and do it. And
Exactly.
maybe that's what we should do. I don't know. I agree with you, that it should be a good cemetery. I'm going to open this up for discussion.
I have something to say about it. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
By
Well,
these pictures, I'm embarrassed
Yeah.
that we would allow,
and I've been.
I have not been out there ever, so I don't know,
I
but
mean,
looking
unfortunately,
at
I'm
these
getting to the age
pictures.
where I've lost quite a bit of family lately, and I've been all around the state, and I have to agree with you, Marcia, this is not one of the better ones as far as maintenance.
No, I think we need to do something. We need to take action. We need to take care of it. I don't want to see it like this summer. I don't. And if I do, action will be taken at this city council meeting again, because this is embarrassing.
So what are our options? You know, I mean, part of it is asking for a volunteer. Is there liability to the city if we get volunteers out there cutting?
Who's equipment?
Can we have?
Like I said too, I've taken my own personal weed eater out there and blower and blowing everything off. I even, one day was getting some extra black dirt for my own yard at home, and I swung by there and scattered it over my mother's grave just to level it out a little bit better. So,
But, Gramps, you're a good son and good for you.
thank you.
We do have to take a little responsibility on, and good for you. Set an example.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of that we're gonna have to do.
Right, and like I said, I've talked to other people that have taken their own blowers and their weed eaters also and done the same thing. So we're trying, but.
Is that what you were gonna say?
Well, yeah, Dave. I was just wondering what's the current maintenance plan? That's what I assume Ted can
Yeah,
explain.
Ted, could you come up? We'll talk about this a little bit.
And this
sounds
changes,
like
this
trimming is a
changes
big
too with the
issue.
weather. If you get rain, you
Yeah.
get, and then again, it can dry right up, but weeds still grow.
And I can see where trimming's an issue, and maybe trimming needs to be put up
A little higher if we could get it, yes.
less worried just
Everybody,
buzzing and, but Ted can talk or.
everybody would appreciate that more.
Yeah.
Well, I stood before this body a couple years ago. I asked for more help. I asked for more money. And the thing that I was told is, just go around it. All of those flags and bullets. We actually had last year, one of my mowers hit a bullet. The bullet went off. Rocks, coins,
A bullet
flowers.
laying in the grass you hit?
There was a handful of 30-06 rounds laying in the grass alongside a headstone. One of my guys come by, it picked it up, I don't know, but it was a perfect situation. It went off.
Ted, those people have those on their headstones, stones, bullets.
Yes, that kind of stuff.
Alcohol,
It's what it
bottles
is
of
it's
alcohol.
all the wires from the foam containers that hold the flowers.
Yeah.
All the plastic containers,
The
all
debris
the
is an
false
issue.
the false flowers. And this body told me to go around it. At that time, this body told me to go around it. So that's what we've been doing the last few years. And granted, I'm embarrassed as hell with my own cemetery.
So
I am.
let's look
I
forward.
want to do more.
Let's look forward. Let's figure out a way that we can do it.
And all it takes is we need more time, and I need more funding to take care of this kind of stuff.
So do we say the second and fourth Monday are the mowing days at the cemetery?
We try to mow
twice a
that
month?
place once a week, is what we try to do in the peak of the summer when grass is growing. When it gets dried out, it goes to probably every 2 weeks, and that's when we're seeing the weeds. And the same thing, we can go in there and we can spray the weeds, but then there's nothing growing on because we don't have a water system to take care of getting the grass growing.
So what do we tell the people who have places in there, interest in there? Do we tell them you can't put anything on the ground? It's got to be clear?
The rule says that if it isn't on the headstone, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
At one time, going back to Tom's administration as city administrator, I took and I did it verbatim. I almost got fired that night at this council meeting. Because of verbatim, I took and I removed the stuff from the plots. I'm very thankful for the help that Char's given us the last few years as we do a yearly cleanup, which is coming up under the agenda tonight. And we typically remove that stuff, we clean it up, we weed whip it, we get it back to somewhat, but we don't have a water system to do and the other thing with the water system is, well, no, it's not that.
Maintenance.
No.
Iron.
It's iron and it's hard water. Every headstone is gonna be stained and there's gonna be hard water spots on that headstone. It's just the type of water we have. And I'd love to do better. I really would. I mean, I have very, very close friends that are in that cemetery. I take a great pride in the cemetery, but I'm very embarrassed by it now.
Well, I believe this council could be convinced to spend a little more money there and make it better. So let's figure out how to do it.
Whatever they can be done. I mean,
So
today.
how do you think the public is gonna react to us saying you can't have anything loose sitting around a headstone?
Well, it's not just the loose. We have flower arrangements that people have taken and dug in and planted around the headstones.
Well, that's what I'm considering loose.
That's not allowed under the rules.
So can you put something on the base itself that your headstone is sitting on, but you still got your base, which, what, 6, 8 inches around, all the way around it?
If you can keep it on the base, that's fine.
Yeah.
And the problem is they blow off and don't do them.
I agree.
I mean, it's on and off the mower, chasing this stuff in the cemetery. And the first one you hit is poofing all over the place. Char's got something to say.
So can we try to do a better job? And can you document the problem areas and bring them back and notify the people or something? It'll take a little time at first. It's doing something different.
I mean, you know, we could purchase sod, but then we gotta water it.
Yeah, I don't,
Instead of, and I don't know if that's the right answer to get it going.
You got your equipment to do the mowing, but there's gonna be a certain amount of handwork. And I realize people don't wanna do handwork, but there's times you have to do it.
Yeah, and my staff is more than willing to do it. It's just all the stuff that they gotta move and then replace, put back down.
yeah.
I mean, we're not just gonna pick it up and throw it off to the side and then have it blowing all over the cemetery.
Well, all right, and I thought about hiring somebody part-time or something and just go down there and whatever, a couple days a week or.
We kinda looked at, having somebody part-time and it's about $13,000.
For 4 months a year?
Yeah, for 22 weeks, basically.
Yeah. Well, if that's what the council wants to do, we've probably spent $13,000 in a more foolish way.
We probably have, yes, sir.
You know, I mean.
You know, whatever this body wants.
Right.
I just need the direction and the ability to take care, because something else in town is not gonna happen because we're putting more time in there.
So if
Well, we all agree it does need some improvement, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
nobody's
let's
arguing
take
with
a
it.
consensus here on the council. Do you agree?
Well, I'd like, if we gave you $13,000 more to hire a part-time employee, do you think you can make it look acceptable? Would that be the only, I'm just trying to get in your head what you're gonna do with the $13,000.
I haven't had enough time to think about it quite all the way.
TJ's gonna volunteer.
Yeah.
TJ, well,
I don't think we should be throwing $13,000 out there without some kind of game plan.
Right.
and that's what I gotta come up with a game plan. TJ, he did for the city of Baxter, he did their cemetery and park also. So he's another person that has experience with the same things I'm dealing with now, so.
You're hired, TJ.
Yeah, I'll stand by Ted. It is tedious work. When he's talking about things go poof, it's those styrofoam circles that they put the fake flowers in. One little tick with the weed whip, it goes boom, and you're spending 15, 20 minutes.
Well, we
trying
have to
scrape all that
eliminate
up.
part of that
Right.
problem. No question.
My thing is, if we're looking at a part-time staff person, could be a high school kid, it could be a kid back home from college, working $15 an hour, not only cut the cemetery, but our walking trails, because those also are hard to get to when we're busy. Weed whipping around the posts, the telephone posts, and all those other obstacles, the benches on those pathways. We only get out there once every 2 weeks. So if we can have a part-timer mowing the cemetery, spending 1 or 2 days a week over there, and then hitting the trails, I think it'd be really beneficial if the council wants to go down that road.
And that will, $13,000 will buy that individual?
That's $15 an hour.
The 13,000 was for 40 hours a week, so.
And that's kind of where Baxter's sitting too, $15 an hour to mow their trails and their parks and cemetery.
I think you better develop a job description too if we're going to go ahead with this part-time seasonal.
We kind of had one before, I don't know if you remember that. We had a seasonal 2 years ago, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And it was specifically just to help out with the mowing. So we could look at that and maybe tweak it a little bit to fit what we're looking at.
Could you do that and bring it back to the May meeting?
Is
Sure
that
can.
too late
Well,
to hire somebody?
they're gonna be behind.
I can work with Ted and we can come up with something.
Yeah.
Is that, are we gonna have to buy any equipment, whether it's weed whackers or anything else?
We have plenty of
Vehicles,
mowers,
trailers.
we have plenty of mowers and weed whips to get this done.
Essentially, it's just one of our staff members can work on something else and use that equipment that they would be using
Okay.
over there in the cemetery and the trails.
And I'm fine with it. So you have my vote.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve, allocate up to $15,000, that you'll come back and verify that at the May meeting with, to hire a part-time, temporary for a month, a year, probably 4 months we'll do
Considered
it.
seasonal, yeah.
Somebody to do the trimming and maintain the cemetery and help out at Park and Rec. It's kind of a long motion there, Shar, but,
I was asking him if he wanted the job, so.
well, I was gonna talk to him after this too.
I have just
Okay?
a couple things. We are going to be cleaning the cemetery in the middle of May,
May the 10th.
as we always do. I want direction from you. Are we going to take everything off that's not allowed?
I think that
We
would be a
haven't.
pretty offensive thing to do. I think we need to post something where you walk into the cemetery, put a sign or something. And I don't know if I'd do it by May 15th, we are going to do this, or let it kind of drag into another year. I certainly wouldn't want to offend anybody by taking something. But I think over time, we'll get to that point. But I think, respect is above all the most important thing, and
We take pride in
Yeah.
the cemetery, it's just we haven't had enough time.
yeah.
I
So,
mean, for one of the first seasons, when one of our guys was hired, he went out there and he started edging all the headstones. Took him pretty much the whole summer to do it.
yeah. Well, let's work for perfection over a few years.
Okay.
But let's start going in that direction.
I realize too, I'm pretty fussy, if people that know me, but I mean, I put up Christmas wreaths on a stand, I take them down, I already taken them down this spring already. My brother insists on a fresh one, well, you know what happens to that, it dries up and dies. So I take care of that, and I also put a couple of shepherd's hooks, but I take them down, I try to work with the city on this and make it, I mean, I wanna work with everybody, but I think we can improve and make it better for all our relatives and
Well,
friends.
be a
and
good
that-
steward to the cemetery and pass that word around in your travels and try to get everybody to have that same
I'd sure like
attitude.
to.
Yeah, but I mean, I make it all something we can be proud of, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
I mean, this is a beautiful place to live, that's why I'm living here,
yeah.
so.
So Shari, I believe you got a motion in a second?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Bruce.
Nope.
Could you
Thanks,
state
Mr.
the
Mayor, and
motion?
all you at City Council, I appreciate it.
was
And
it.
you too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just gonna give you two facts quick. Cemetery was formed in 1903. Today, we have 848 people buried in the cemetery. Just two facts.
Yeah.
And you gotta realize too, when you guys, or not we guys, or us, when they did do that, at that date, it was a smaller operation back then, and look how it's grown. Headstones have gotten big, well, not really bigger, some of the headstones you go by, some of these cemeteries are just huge. So, I mean, it has
Respect
changed.
is respect, and we'll try to carry that forward.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have something to add?
I'd like to have that motion stated again by her.
I'll tell you what I have so
Okay,
far.
Good.
To allocate up to $15,000 for a part-time seasonal 4-month employee to mow the cemetery and trails.
And help at Park and Rec. for trails.
Would be a
Did you say 15 or 13?
15.
1.5.
And we'll leave it up to them to find somebody. But yeah, that says what I wanted to say.
Was there a second?
I don't know.
Aaron?
Aaron did, I believe.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Aaron Herzog?
Yes.
Dave Nevin?
Yes.
Dave Schrupp? John Andrews?
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thanks, Bruce, for bringing that.
No, thank you.
Approval of, next one is approval of resolution accepting donations. So we've got 2 donations here. One is from an anonymous donor of $50 to upgrade the community center sign at the intersection of Cassaw 66 and Daggett Pine Road. The other one is from Bob Healy's. He's donating 6 framed pictures for decorations at the police department and city hall. What are the pictures of, Eric?
Well, the one right in City Hall is a Les Cuba of the Eagle at Ox Lake Tavern. It's a numbered print.
Cool.
So it's pretty cool. And I got a couple, a Terry Redlin and a couple other ones and a really nice oil painting.
Not military, but just good paintings.
Good.
Fabulous.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept those donations.
I move we accept both donations.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Dave Nevin?
yes.
Dave Schrupp?
Yes.
John Andrews?
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles?
Yes.
Aaron Herzog?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, F3 is to adopt a Pine River Bacchus Senior of 2021. Now, I just have one question, comment about this. Do we have Pine River Bacchus people living in Cross Lake?
We have 3 school districts here. We have Crosby, Pequot, and Pine River.
Okay, good. So I don't know that I'm,
And in the past, we have donated to Grad Blast
at Pequot.
and Pine River,
Okay.
both.
And how much?
$100.
Okay,
And I just want to say the Grad Blast was developed to keep students safe and off the streets on graduation night.
and has Pequot come forward for anything?
Not this year.
Okay. So this is just promoting a end of the school year party for seniors who unfortunately haven't experienced much of a senior year in high school. So I don't think I want to read this whole thing. Any discussion on it?
Nope, I think it's good.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we donate $100 to the Adopt a Pine River Bacchus Senior 2021. Is it still called Grad Blast then? That's what it says here.
Not this year.
Oh, it isn't, okay. So where you're mailing the money to.
It says Grad Blast on the check.
Yeah. That's my motion. We go ahead and.
Okay,
do it.
there's a motion. We have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
I second.
Okay, Aaron, I think, got that.
All right.
Dave Schrupp?
Yes?
John Andrews?
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles?
Yes.
Aaron Herzog?
Yes.
Dave Nevin?
Okay, number 4 is an update on the fire hall. Is it this week, Chip, they're doing the cleaning? Or next week? This week? So the end of this week, they're gonna clean the inside of the fire hall and they're gonna let the guys move in. So, and then next week, they should be kinda, hopefully wrapping up. By the end of April, I think they said they're gonna be done and out of here. So that's 2.5 weeks away. Anything else you wanna add to that? We got enough stuff to cover here. Any questions about the fire hall from anybody? Okay, I'm gonna go into 4A, a change order number 10 for Bay 5 overhead door relocation from High Tech. And that is for, is that, what's that for, Mike? Is that 18? I can't see it here.
$18,758.85.
Yeah, this one was a little disturbing to us, but it got to be a bigger job than they thought. I think they had about $6,500. Who's talking?
I thought that Bay 5 garage door was like 6,800.
Yeah, it was, but they had difficulties.
Had to what?
Pardon?
Had to what?
As far as what? Well, Andy,
Why
are you
is
here?
it 18,000 now and not 6,800? Because that's what we were told.
Yeah. Andy, can I get you to address that?
Yes, ma'am. So that item, the overhead door relocation, is where we relocated the overhead door. Unfortunately, the location that we moved it to was on a bearing point within the building. So when we moved it, we were putting together a budget, and that budget was that $6,500. And we based that number on a sketch from the engineer of what they thought it would take. So once we got into it and the engineer started designing it, they determined that the existing building had a shear wall, which is a structural component within the building. So adding that shear wall and having to address that increased the amount of steel that was needed, and changed the framing of the way that we were supporting that. And then we also had to do plywood across the entire east-west wall of the building. So that's where the added increase was. So
Andy, was part of that the additional concrete you had to take outside, or was that always there? We haven't talked about it.
part of it, we had to add an additional footing, and it also changed the depth of the footing because of the shear wall and the framing that changed there. The footings went from a spread footing down to a footing that had to be all the way down to frost depth, down 5 feet. So there was a footing pad as well as a pier that had to be poured. So that also changes. So that was in 2 locations that we had to extend that footing down 5 feet deep.
So what my take on this, Marcia, is high-tech throughout the whole experience has been pretty good. This particular one gives me a little heartburn also.
It gives me more than heartburn.
Yeah.
That's $12,000. Didn't the engineering pick up on that?
Well, it wasn't engineered prior to the budget. The engineering was part of the change that was the budgeted change that was approved. So we put the budget out there before the engineering knew about the change.
Well, I think when we were discussing changing that Bay Area, we knew that there had to be a new supporting beam in there, and the engineers had said that, but all this other stuff, they should have been able to catch that, shouldn't they?
Well, again, they didn't dig into the engineering part of it. They did, when we budgeted, it was just kind of a, from a 100-foot view, design from the engineering side. So again, the design was incorporated in this change. So they truly didn't design it until we got approval to proceed on it.
Until you got the beam out?
No.
I guess it doesn't matter.
Until we got a council approval to proceed with that $6,500 budget. Once you guys approve that, that's when the engineering actually dug into it and designed it and engineered it.
So Andy, where part of the mistake was letting it go 3 months long or something and not bringing it back right away. But that happens in the haste of trying to keep things moving and whatever. I get it. Fortunately, that didn't happen too often during this process. Yeah, I don't know what else you want them to say. Yeah.
Nothing, I just needed an explanation for 12,000 when it was 6,800 proposed.
Dave, to your, if we're looking at C8, the summary page, we approved in the consent.
Yeah.
This item's over by 12,271, but if you look up the list, there's some items there that
they go back and forth.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
And the costs are less. So from what
We're not done with the change orders, Dave.
No, I know, that's true, but from what we projected back when we first started, we're holding underneath it right now, so.
Yeah, and, you know, like I said, most of them are pretty close. This one here was kind of a hiccup, but
Am I reading that wrong, Mike?
No, you're correct. If you remember back when we started this project, you know, we had an original budget, then we came back and said we've got some other things that we need to take care of during that process. And council directed High Tech to come back with, what's your best guess at what it's going to take to correct the things that we've identified? And at that time, it was about $372,600, correct, Andy? Is what he came back with. And
That
so
sounds
what
right.
they've been doing is keeping track of that. Now, some of the items there are still pending. They're going to come over a little bit too, for understanding, and they're working on the final pricing through the Gordian process. One of the items that we didn't need to do was concrete slab and moisture mitigation for $35,000. So where we're sitting today is of that $372,600 budget that was approved to fix those identified items, we're $350,761 into it, which is just about $22,000 less than what we had originally budgeted back at that time. So that's good news. So we're going to hold you to the other numbers that you gave us on there that we're waiting for final numbers on, right?
That's correct. We got a few that we are waiting on some, again, we have to enter these into the Gordian system. So I'm waiting on quantities from certain subcontractors so that we can enter that in and generate the final number. But yes, everything I'm seeing is tracking pretty close. There are a few that are probably going to be over. Some are exterior walls that we had to open up is trending to be a little higher than our budget. And that's with all the surface mounted items that had to be taken off in order to open those walls up. So there's a few things where we're going to be a little bit over, and there's a few where we've been under. You know, all in all, I think the overall budget number, as Mike had indicated, is going to be pretty accurate.
Okay. No, this is not addressing some of the other items that we added after that original 372.6 was done. And you'll see that on your item C8, I've identified those in the middle of the page where we're talking about additional change orders for items supplied by the contractor. Now, those were all items like for the attic draft stops, just a whole bunch of other things that we were looking at through that same process. Okay.
Now, do we need a motion to approve this?
Yep, each one of them.
Yep.
Okay, I'll move that we approve change order number 10 in the amount of $18,758.85.
I'll second that.
Marcia Zeber-Vols,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Anders is muted.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next is 4B, hose tower change order. And I don't think that changed too much, did it? The change order is for $5,557. What was the budget on that? I didn't.
4612.
4612?
Yeah.
Oh, it did go up.
About 900.
And is that balcony on, Andy?
No, we're waiting on it from the manufacturer. It's getting held up for getting powder coated right now. It's fabricated. We're just waiting for it to get finished and then we'll install it.
Okay, what do you turn in the change order in before it's on for? Is that normal? I guess maybe it is.
Because we had the quantities, again, entering it into Gordian, we were able to get the quantities all rectified. As far as lineal footage of steel and painting and some of that, so.
Okay. All right, any motion on that one? Any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the work order number 11 in the amount of
second it.
$5,557.62.
I still second it.
Aaron Herzog?
Yes.
Dave Nevin?
Yes.
Dave Schrupp? John Andrews?
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is for project extension costs, and I'm going to pick on you a little bit here, Andy. Unmute. You got charges in here to set up scaffolding for the hose tower, I believe. For $6,700. Now, I think your number for extension is very fair, but I look at that number and I think, how could you erect that hose tower without scaffolding? Number 3 on your backup.
I believe that item was to extend it to enclose the entire roof. So scaffolding it up past and putting
From 40 to 60 feet.
Yeah, putting the
Okay,
extra shelter above it. So that's what that scaffolding
All right.
addition was.
I understand that now. So I'm gonna make a comment on this. I think they were very fair with winter heat. We had started this project in July thinking we were gonna be done by October. And we worked outside, covered everything, heated it. I assume the city paid for the gas, heat, and electric. But you supplied all your heaters and cover and poly and whatever. So to do that for $20,000 or something is a thank you. I think that was a fair price.
This was for the whole project, not just the tower?
No, it's the whole project, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That we had to shelter the west side of the building and the overhead doors. We had to shelter the overhead doors on both sides of the building when we took them out and replaced them, and then sheltering also the tower.
So that is the entire project, 21,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I think that was an extremely fair price. So we need a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve change order number 12 for $21,675.67.
Second.
Okay, motion and second.
Dave Nevin?
Yes.
Dave Schrupp?
Yes.
John Andrews?
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles?
Yes.
Aaron Herzog?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next, fire department. I am looking for council to approve the purchase of 10 K1, I think, or KI office chairs for the fire station. There was a $5,000 budget for this item, and the cost of these chairs are $3,731. That doesn't happen very often.
What's that?
That you come in under budget.
I know.
All right, any questions, comments on that?
You don't need a motion on this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay, I move we approve the expenditure of $3,731.80 for 10 chairs for the fire department.
I'll second it.
Dave Schrupp?
Yes.
John Andrews?
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles?
Yes.
Aaron Herzog?
Yes.
Dave Nevin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next is, Mr. Loebmuller would like to approve an audio-video system. Now, Chip, we kind of don't disagree, but we can't quite put our finger on the $20,000 that we had allowed for this, right? But I think it's kind of consensus that we did have 20,000 in the budget for it.
Let's hear.
Well, you got it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you picked out $33,000 worth of audio equipment. So we're asking for an upgrade of $13,000, $13,083.
Yep.
But Chip, you started closer to 40, didn't you?
Actually started about 49.
When
The system will be the same as we have here. You gotta remember, when we went to the When we started this project, we thought we'd have some stuff left over, but it was totally gutted, so we had to start fresh. So I need access points for Wi-Fi, basically starting fresh. We have nothing.
All your hard wiring is in the building though, right, to hook
Hardwired-
up?
They got hardwired, yes.
So it is wired, ready to accept?
Yep,
So now you're plugging in.
yep, it is.
So what I'm gonna bring up here is there any way can we stay on the budget and add stuff as we go? At worst case, when we budget for next year?
Well, the only thing that I'm doing right now is asking for is to get the training room functional. There's no other rooms that are being asked to finish here. The only thing that I'm asking, this 33 is only for the training room.
And then what I'm asking is there something you can do without to make that training room functional, that we can stay on budget?
I'll have to talk to the contractors and see how we can make it functional, but I don't.
I mean, you're at the plug and play state, so it's just buying stuff and plugging it in, right?
Well, not necessarily. You have to have, like I said, you have to have, it'll be the same type of system, so we can do Zoom, we can do, have conference calls, we can do our training, we can do videos, basically the same thing we're doing here.
Right, well,
But we can work towards that. I think we should stick with the $20,000 allocation and get your basic equipment and then budget in 2022 for the additional amounts you need.
let's just get everybody on the council their opinion of it.
We're already telling City Hall staff and we're telling Police Department staff that they can't have some of the stuff that they need for this facility, so I think it's, we need to be careful that we're fairly even across the.
Mr. Schrupp, what's your opinion?
I don't think he can operate without all of it. And if we push it off to next year, he'll be lucky to have it by this time next year.
What were you gonna say? I'm not an IT guy, so I don't even know.
Yeah.
If you remember, we had to get a bigger switch box here, and we still have that, so that could save us some money. I think it's right around $2,000, so.
How much?
2,000 right around. Yeah, we had to get a bigger box because we needed more capabilities with Zoom, so we could get the different camera angles on Zoom, and we still have that box, so we could use that at his facility.
Thanks, TJ.
Mr. Andrews, you got something you want to say?
I think we need to allow it to happen. I think we need to give our staff the equipment they need to do their job in the story.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't have the equipment. I'm saying they should work with the $20,000 that was allocated for the audio video and work towards, I don't know, for lack of better thing, their dream audio video.
It's not a dream. We use this, just like you use here, we need it for training. We use it more often than some council chambers do.
Okay, but everything is coming in 13, 15, 20,000. I think we just gotta stop and do the basics. That's just my opinion. Stop
Is that
and
a
do the
motion,
basics
Marcia?
at 20.
Is that a motion?
At 20,000. Well, if the rest of the council will entertain it, I will say, let's allocate $20,000 to the system and build on it and wait for a request for 2022 on the balance of what additional equipment they want.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do you have a second? I'll second that motion for you, Marcia. Go ahead, Char.
Dave Schrupp,
No.
John Andrews,
No.
Marcia Ziebert Vols,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, F4F is pay request number 8 from High Tech in the amount of $111,685.40. So what's the balance after this is paid, Mike? Is it 13?
On the high-tech contract, it's about $13,000, correct?
But there are some extras that are not on there?
Correct. We've identified everything that we think the building's going to end up costing on item C8 that we were talking about earlier.
But by releasing this payment, we're still have enough secured funds that we can make sure
Yes,
the
we do.
job gets finished. Okay, we're almost done paying for this, or at least forwarding money for it. We're not done paying for it, but. So unless there's any questions on that, we need a motion.
Is there, yeah, I have a question. Are we holding enough back if we run into a problem, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Then I move we pay the $111,685.40 to High Tech.
I'll second it.
Okay,
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, F4G, we've got a couple proposals for work that we need to finish there. I mean, as they're digging stuff apart, they continue to find things that need fixing. The wood soffit, on the exterior, they took the metal fascia off. I think this is right, Andy, and it was rotten behind it?
So we took the gutters off the fascia there.
Yep.
On the overhangs, and the fascia has screw holes in it from the gutters. The gutters were generating and causing some of the ice dams that were on that building. So collectively, construction team decided we were gonna, it'd be in best interest of the building to remove those. There was a little bit of water damage to a couple of the fascia members, but I don't think it's enough to warrant replacing that structure. But the proposal is to replace the flashing, the fascia itself, the metal.
Okay, well, this first change order, Andy, is just the soffit wood restaining, so it's the underside.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong one.
I was wrong too.
Okay, so
Well, that's an
the
appearance
soffit,
thing.
yeah, this is an appearance thing. So the underside of those overhangs, it would be restaining the wood under those and resealing them. It's gonna protect it better and give it a better look. So it's mostly an
It's
aesthetic
the
thing.
beams and the soffit at the two entrances to the admin end of the building. You can remember, walking into the building, the covered areas, the ceilings are all cedar. So the front and back side, that's basically what it is, correct?
Correct, east and west sides.
So, I mean, if we wanted to get real squeaky, we could say we could wait and do that later too, because it doesn't affect anything other than appearance. The other side of the coin is they're working, probably be the time to do it, so that's my input. $6,570 for the front and back side.
I move to approve it, amount of $6,570, not to be exceeded, Andy. I don't care. We run into this stuff too much.
It's the old yes, Dad.
Well, I'm old enough.
I heard that. All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Okay, next, and I believe this is the last one, the fascia and the gutters. Now, you took the old gutters off, and that's where the fascia was marked up, so, and destroyed or damaged or whatever. And then gutters, we need gutters in 3 areas, primarily over 3 entrances into the building. And that's $4,600. Where are you, Andy?
Yep.
I don't know if you got to say
So,
anything.
so like I jumped to the conclusion earlier, that would be replacing the fascia metal from where the gutters were removed, and then selective gutters being added at basically, like you mentioned, the walkways.
In our on-site, we walked around, we covered the areas they were. You don't really have a diagram of where they're going, do you?
The one area is the northeast corner by the tower, as you exit the tower vestibule. That would be one spot, and then the west side by the overhead door, by the,
South door, huh?
the old police door, yep.
Yeah.
And over that entire section of where the overhead door is. And then the other location would be the northwest corner exiting the apparatus bay by the ambulance garage.
Yeah, so that was 4,600, was that?
Yeah.
4,615. So it's necessary to get gutters on there. You know, per the site visit. So, anybody have any questions?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve the fascia and gutters expenditure in the amount of $4,615.
I second it.
Dave Schrupp. John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Zeber Folds.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes. Okay, and then just to mention F5, I don't think needs a motion, but Andy, could you get back on there again? It's the remaining punch list items.
So, I think we're getting really close to finishing up. The sign is getting, is in for locates currently. So we're waiting for locate companies to come out and get us locates for that. Now that frost is out, we can move ahead with that one. The back door hardware, I believe that got delivered to the city. If it was last week or the week before, so we can get that installed now. So Tim will be over there to get that installed here this week. I think that was about all we had left out, unless I'm missing something.
Well, you're missing the problems with the toilets and the sand and
Oh,
the
yes.
water system.
And the side tables on each side
Yeah.
of the council.
And the
So-
tables on each side of the council here are cracking or moving or doing something?
They're separating in here,
Yeah.
both sides.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to come
Tim
out and take
knows
a look
about
at that. We will have a 11-month warranty walkthrough here this spring, and we can walk through and kind of identify all those items and get all that cleaned up as well.
So I'm gonna, on your behalf, Andy, I'm gonna make a statement here. For a year or 2 years, there's gonna be little issues going on with this building. So we need to tag them and promptly, like once a year, come and do a walkthrough? Is that what you'd like to do?
Typically, we do a 1-year walkthrough, warranty walkthrough. And that's where punch list items get identified and rectified. And then beyond that, it's the city's building. So then if there's a maintenance item, if there's a structural issue or something of that nature, at that point, we would be, still rectifying, make it right. But that's the typical construction scenario is, after that one month warranty period, and then beyond that, the maintenance side of it is through the city.
And when is that year starting? Is that July?
I think it was June. You guys occupied?
Actually, you were over here working though last week. Maybe we should reset the clock.
The punch list keeps getting added too, and that's part of what we.
All right, well, anyway, it's a year. Enough said. And we're gonna talk about the toilets here. Ted's got something on that. Go ahead, Ted, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Council, we're continuously getting fine sand through our well and through our system, and our stools don't flush. It's happened in the police office and in the one upstairs here. The other thing is we had a power outage the other day. This is the second time since we've been in the building we've had this power outage, and the switchgear didn't switch over. Come to find out, the switchgear is bad. This came from Jim's Electric, the ones who did the installation of that part of that system. And I was under the assumption they were coming to put a different switchgear in it. I have not seen them yet.
So I'm sorry, Ted, I was distracted that first pass. Is that the generator?
Not the generator, the switchgear for the generator. It switches from normal to
And you lost power, so it had to kick on?
It had to kick on, and the building wouldn't run or function because of that switchgear has a defect in it. They come to find out there is a recall on that switchgear, and it's supposed to be replaced, so.
So just to clarify, Andy, how long is that kind of major mechanical stuff warranted? How long can we call and?
Absolutely, those, so those types of items we'll have a manufacturer's warranty with, so that'll carry all the way through parts and warranty for major items like that. So that one goes on to whatever that manufacturer's warranty is, and I don't know specifically what that transfer switch is. But Ted, going forward, if you could let me know on that, I could help you bird dog these guys and make sure that these items are getting rectified.
We just, when it happened last week, we just happened to see the electricians over at the city, or the fire hall.
Sure.
We grabbed one of them, and they got the guys from the other side of their building that does the generator work, and he got here from Crosby and got us back up and running, but that's when we found out that we have a faulty unit, so.
Yeah, always take care of it and make sure you get it up and running. Just circle back with me, and I can help make sure that these items get squared up.
And the only other thing is like that well that's pumping the fine sand, we've had to call plumbers in several times because we can't flush toilets. We actually went and got a price to put in just a second here. We looked at putting one of those bag filter systems in line to take and remove the fines. It's an ongoing maintenance thing, but from North Country Plumbing, it was $3,486 for the unit installed. And then the other thing is after the fact, the system would have to be flushed to get the sand that's in the system out of it. So it's just one of the options. But this is realized, this doesn't take care of the problem. The problem's at the well. This is a Band-Aid stuck in between, and then it's a long-term maintenance issue, so.
So Andy, I asked you at the walkthrough too, is there a screen on that Sandpoint issue that we should be looking at?
Yeah, and I got a message into Northern Well, and he was looking into it and still trying to find answers on, what's going on with it. There is a screen on it. Obviously the screen isn't filtering out the fine sands that we need to. So I don't have an answer if that can be replaced and a different screen put on. So I'm waiting to hear back from the well company, and as soon as I do get that information, I will pass that along.
But in the meantime, they can't use the toilets here. So what do we have to do? Spend $3,500 and put a sand bag filter on until?
Are they all? I mean, I guess the way I understood it was just a couple of them that were plugging up. Are they not operational at all?
Eric, on your side? You're good on your side?
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
For the moment.
Didn't we have a change order that was gonna be on our nickel for a new screen, about $7,000 that we?
Did we?
What do we have, one or two wells here?
We have two wells.
Two? Was it on the other well?
It was on the fire pump well to gain capacity.
Right, for the sprinkler?
I recall.
And this is on the other well?
This is on our domestic well is the problem.
All right, so is that normally, why did they want us to pay on that one? And
The screen size on that one was not big enough to get enough water through the screen. So they had to upsize the size of the screen on that well so we could cover fire protection for this building. The domestic well, we don't know, quite sure what's going on. If there's a hole in the screen from installation, or if there's the wrong size screen. And remember, I've gotten rocks that big.
must be a hole.
In the domestic side?
Yeah.
Well, they gotta pull the screen, Andy, and find out what's going on.
Ted, I thought that rock you found was in the fire protection side, wasn't that?
Nope,
in
that was
fire
in the
pump?
water, that was in the water meter for the domestic side.
Oh.
So you gotta just, before we spend $3,500 on a bag screen, let's pull the thing and see what the Sandpoint looks like.
Next week.
That's been going on for 3 months or so,
next week.
The sooner, the better.
Okay, noted.
Yeah, why are we considering putting a filter on there when it's high-tech?
They gotta fix the problem, but
I just got an option. That's all I was trying to do, is just to have an option.
Band-Aid.
You wanted us to get mad at high-tech and get them.
No, I did not want, I just was trying to cover my bases. If somebody asked me, is there a solution to it? It's either change the screen or one of these bag filters.
who drilled that well?
Northern Well. Eric TC.
All right.
I think you
So
better
he's the
put
same-
that on high priority and get out here.
I will. He's the same one that did the Cross Lake School.
Okay, but we really need them out here soon. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay, I am done. Mr. Lannis, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. So we're on item G1 of my report. The first item in there is a letter from the Initiative Foundation. And if you remember, each year we support the Initiative Foundation with a budgeted amount. And this is just some information to the council to let you know what's available for businesses, families, individuals, whomever from the Initiative Fund to help our local community through the pandemic crisis. So it's just for information, there's no action required. It's just to get that information out. Marcia?
Is that shared with the EDA?
No, this has nothing to do with the EDA. No.
I mean,
It could,
wouldn't they-
possibly.
Yeah.
But they would work with the Initiative Foundation. It would not be additional money from the city. We've already provided
Yeah,
that
I
funding.
realize what the initiative fund is, but I just wondered if this is shared with the EDA so that they're aware of it.
We can do that.
That would be a good idea.
There's 2 members of the EDA here, so
Okay.
consider it shared. Item number 2, at a previous council meeting, there was a request for a traffic study to try to see what's the appropriate speed on 3 different roads through the city. The roads we were looking at were, I'll start at the north end of the city from the Moonlight Bay West Shore Drive, and then going down to the Daggett Cross Channel, I'm going backwards, to CASA 16, and then 103 intersection on 3 north to Mosieres. The way the process works, if a local government wants to change the speed, we need to request on a county road, we need to request the county to do that for us. So there's 2 letters. There's one letter that I wrote to Rob Hall at the County Highway Department, and the top letter is a letter from the county to the Minnesota Department of Transportation, and on the back side of that first letter you have is a map of where the traffic study will do. So the request is in, the process is moving forward, and no cost to us, and we have something to report on when that's done, or if they're going to do it, we'll let you know, okay? So item 3 is we're just wrapping up our annual audit, and what we're looking at is to go through the review of the financial statements on Monday, May 10th at 6 p.m. So we need to set a special meeting to do that. That'd require council action and a motion.
And our council meeting is the same night, 7 o'clock, so we'll
Yes.
just come in early. Okay.
What about the assignments? I see you have the 1231.
Sure, we'll address the assignments in item 4.
Okay, because the city council approves that.
Correct. We're just setting a meeting for item 3.
So we just agree? That's not a motion?
You need to have a council action and a motion to set the meeting.
Okay, I'll make the motion that with those meetings at 6 o'clock.
Yep,
May
special
10th.
meeting, 6 o'clock at Monday, May 10th.
And I'll second it.
Okay.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so let's move on to item 4 under my report. Back in April meeting, we were looking at purchasing some additional microphones for these table here. And on item G4, we were given direction to say, okay, come back and tell us what budget category this is going to come out of. We do have some options. The recommended option staff is making is to purchase 6 wired microphones similar to these. at an estimated cost of $2,541.74 from Stewart Sound Systems, and use existing general fund assigned balance that we already have to pay for that purchase. Now, if you go to, just for reference, if we went with wireless microphones with batteries, then we'd be looking at around a little over $16,000 for the same thing. So let's go to the last portion of that item G4. What you have in front of you is our estimate of where I think we'll end up with the audited fund balances. Now, I'm still waiting for a report from our auditors to verify that, but this is what I'll be coming back with from a recommendation. Now, there's two things in there, prepaids, that's really not a choice. You know, whatever we have for prepaid insurance and things like that, we separate out of our fund balance as non-spendable. Now, restricted for capital outlay is where we've had a lot of discussion. Now, this is just a summary. Here a couple months ago, we looked at a very preliminary cash balance on where that was. Now, what I'm looking at is when we look at restricted for capital outlay, I remember last year, not late last year, but in 2020, we signed a contract with High Tech to finish the city hall, or not the city hall, but the fire building. That's what's left. $485,695 is the balance that we had committed to at that time. Now, we have a bunch of other items that are budgeted, and you see that in assigned for capital outlay for fire hall remodeling project right below the yellow line. If you add those two numbers together, that totals what we put aside in our budget to pay for the rest of the fire hall, okay? That's just an aside. But if you look at what we had, every year we have all these fund balances that are assigned for different things. And I provided a list for you that makes those up. Now, the ones on the left-hand side, that's where we started with our audit. If there are any new ones, you'll need to let me know what you'd like those to be and for what purpose. We can assign them. But what I'm recommending is in the admin and PZ equipment fund, there's been some carryover dollars in there that we've carried over from year to year. You know, and what we've tried to do is match up, you know, if we buy a copier lease, things like that, we have a copier for whatever the copier costs plus a related capital outlay for that item, or if we have a piece of equipment that's unexpected. So in this case, I believe that would fall into that category. And at 12/31/20, there's just under $17,000 that would be available if we continue the process that we've been using. So that's one option for you, and that's what I'm recommending. The other option we could do is we could split that $2,500 cost between admin, planning and zoning, and then public works. We could do it that way and use current year budget dollars. But either way, you have the funds to do it. It's just a matter of where do you want to take them. And my recommendation is to take them from our existing assigned fund balances rather than to deplete our current year budget.
That makes sense to me.
I'm surprised that we didn't use this on our overruns on the city hall, because there was equipment, like there's all these sound, whatever they're called. I mean, that we didn't use that 16,000 there. I mean, we went over 100,000 on additional costs. I'm surprised that there's still something there. The 16,987.
Those were not assigned to the City Hall project. Those were assigned for equipment for those departments. I understand your point.
But we could have used them in these soundbar panels or whatever you want to call them. I forgot what you call them. So, or any other equipment here, as far as that goes. But
you could have used Public Works bridges too for the same purpose. It's all really up to what the council would like to do. But my recommendation is to use some of that $16,987 for the purpose of additional microphones for this room.
Okay, so we've agreed that we're going to do the $2,500 microphones.
That's what he's recommending.
That's my recommendation. We haven't agreed
And are they
to that
really
yet.
similar? Are they the same thing or real? I mean, I like these.
Yeah. We would just have 6 more
what
of
are
them.
these for? These additional ones?
Those aren't additional, those were recycled from our old building.
So we're just gonna have these all the way around, these ones. They work better now.
We have a lot of problems with the ones that you're using.
TJ, how are these recording?
Those?
Yeah.
Better. Yeah, I think everybody can hear them better. I think they're good.
I'm fine with that. I don't.
I'll make a motion that we approve Mr. Linus' recommendation to go with the wired microphones for $2,541.74 and use the money in his admin and P&Z equipment account. Pay for it.
I second it.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Zebra-Vols.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. We're going to skip number 5 under my report because we handled that earlier, so thank you for making that change. Item 6 is a message I got from our health insurance provider, and it's really at this point just for information for you. And what we're looking at with that is every year our health insurance provider goes out and they look to see, are we getting the best pricing in the market? Should we be looking at other companies? What should we just do to provide health insurance and other benefits for our members? This is part of the normal process that they go through every year. Now, when they go through this year with the Minnesota Health Care Consortium at Resource Training and where we get our, the service cooperative where we get our insurance, they go and evaluate each of the plans, each of the providers, and say, what's the best deal for our membership, of which we're a member? This would be a change for us. We've been with Blue Cross for the last few years. This is looking at possibly changing providers. So we've been with Medica in the past. Several years ago, we've been with Blue Cross. We've been with other providers too. So what we're trying to do is match up the benefits and balance the risk within our group through this consortium of providers. So once we know what they're planning to do, we can budget accordingly and decide if we want to stay with Resource Training and Solutions. We could decide if we want to do something else. But this is just for later. We won't know until, late this summer what those numbers might look like and what benefits they would be offering.
Are they hinting at anything?
They're keeping pretty tight lips right now.
Would Harlan still be your representative?
Yeah, he's already been, yep.
he's
And you see, this is dated March 4th, which was, I wanted to wait until after I talked with Harlan. We had an opportunity to talk about this last week, so that's why you're just seeing it now.
Were we in a cooperative before?
Yes, Resource Training and Solutions is a service co-op.
Moving from the cooperative to the consortium?
No,
So
we're not. The
They're
consortium,
changing contract.
they're looking at changing providers. Right now, the insurance underwriter is Blue Cross. They're looking at changing from Blue Cross to Medica. Now, if we don't like the answer, we could go look at other co-ops around the state too. It's easier to stay with who you're working with than to change co-ops. But we'll see what's the best deal for our membership and come back with a recommendation.
I think we should look at deductibles too, the options and deductibles.
Right, and we look at everything. We look at what's covered.
Last year, we didn't look at changing deductibles, but we should have.
We looked at changing deductibles, and we're still under a contract with 2 of our bargaining units, and we had to keep with what we had.
But we won't this year. This year, we can look at it, because the contract is going to end December 31st, 2021, right? The union contract?
Right, correct.
So, and this contract would start January 1, 2022, so we could look at.
Yep, we want to look at deductibles, what's covered, what doctors are in network, which are not. And so we're looking at providing those benefits to our membership. This isn't for a decision tonight, it's just for information.
I'm just saying that we should, when it comes time, that we should look at the deductibles.
Correct, and that's what they're doing for us right now. And again, this is just for information, to give you a heads up on what's happening. Now, they could come back and say, we couldn't make a deal, we're gonna stay put where we're at. We just don't know that yet. Okay? That's all I have.
Okay, Mike, thanks. Public safety next. Eric, you got something?
Good evening. First thing is the 2016 Ford Explorer. The highest bid we got on that through Gov Deals was $6,500. I put a minimum of $8,000 on it. So what I'd like to do, if we could, is do sealed bids here and put a minimum bid of $8,000 on that. It's well worth it, so.
Perfect.
If you're good with that, Shar and I will get that arranged. We'll advertise with the Northland Press and the Echo, correct? Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Secondly, you've got a contract for Mission Township. They agreed to a 3-year at the 62,870 with 3% increases the second and third year.
I'm not sure that we want to agree to that. Didn't we, when we extended that, did we commit to agreeing to a 3-year term?
Your motion, if I recall correctly, was 1 year, or if they agreed to a 3% increase for the extended two years.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I asked Shar about that today. I saw that in the minutes and I thought for sure, and I went back and you basically alluded to it when you made the motion. You said if they agreed to a 2-year or a 3-year 3%, and then Marcia came back with 1 year 62,870. So
yeah, did
if
you
I
look
if
into
I
it?
screwed
Was
that up,
in the motion earlier? Yeah. Okay.
it's ambiguous. Let's just put it that way. But it was something you had said, and it was something when I walked away from that meeting that I took away.
Well,
that
it's a
3-year.
lot better than where we were going. I
Right.
just don't know what changes is going to come each year, you know, this year.
Right, and we can
things are
always,
crazy, so.
I'm sure we can always go back and ask to renegotiate if something big happens. And I think that was your words were,
Well, the intent was to make the practice in the range of 3% a year, because that's typically what the cost of increase is, so.
correct. So if we can, I think we need a motion to accept that, don't we? And then you and I sign it, I guess, Mayor.
Yeah.
They already signed theirs.
So if you guys agree to that.
Perfect. Go ahead.
I move to approve the contract with Mission Township.
I'll second that.
Dave Nevin?
Yes.
Dave Schrupp?
Yes.
John Andrews?
Yes.
Marcia Zebert Bowles?
Yes.
Aaron Herzog?
Yes.
Thank you. Last, for years, we've had these Ruger Mini 14s sitting in our gun safes. And they're expensive rifles. We haven't used them in squad car. Well, I don't think I've ever had one in my squad car in 25 years. So they've been sitting there. I spoke with Bill's Gun Shop. They seem to think that we can get a decent amount of money for them, and we really don't have a use for them here. So I would say we put them on consignment. Bill's will give me a good price on them, and then
How many do you have?
2.
2?
I'll make a motion to declare the 2 Ruger Mini 14 rifles as surplus.
Second.
What caliber are they?
223. I've already got people wanting to know when I'm going to bring them down there. They want
For
to
the
follow
State
me
of the
down.
Union, I think everybody should have 4 or 5 of them.
I can't comment on that. I will be bringing other guns down, though, to Bill's in addition to that, that we have for sale, whether they were for forfeiture, for drugs, or guns that have been here for years that.
Yeah, don't stick them or don't keep them around.
Nope. So if we're good with that, just need a motion.
They have a
Oh, yeah,
motion.
yeah.
Dave
Thank you.
Schrupp,
Yes.
John Andrews,
Yes.
Marcia Zebert Folds,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Hello again. Before I touch base on my report, can we revisit the seasonal position? And I don't know if this needs a motion to adjust the application, but if Ted and I come up with something yet this week, early next week, could we put that in an email and get an agreement from council and so we can move along with it?
I kind of think that was the intent of
Okay.
the motion, is for
Okay.
you to move
I just wanted
forward.
to-
Yeah, go quick.
Not to exceed, but
Yep.
yeah, to get it rolling.
Cool. All right, item 2A is a community center usage policies and rules amendment. So a little history. The past 2 years, we've been receiving not a lot of calls, but calls here and there requesting to use our parking lot for activities outside of our park amenities or within our facility. I really didn't know how to answer those questions because we didn't have anything written up in our policy. So before things get carried away and we get more and more calls to use our parking lot, Jane and I brought our recommendation to the Park and Library Commission, and their recommendation is to amend the policy and state the parking lot is to be utilized by community center and park visitors only. So when they call in requesting that, we can refer to that policy. And
So have you had trouble with people overnight parking there?
I can't confirm, we don't really police it. I don't know if you've ever noticed any overnight parking, but they have requested it.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think we should get in the policy of,
If they're renting property out, they can supply the parking spaces. So I agree with your,
Yep.
and then have you guys keep an eye and see, I don't know.
How do we want to post it? No 24-hour parking, no overnight parking?
Probably, yeah.
that's a good suggestion.
So is that a motion or a?
I don't know that I can do that.
I think he wants a motion to
Yeah, we gotta
approve
make
this
a
new community center usage.
We can certainly look into
policy.
signage, but yeah, look into the
I'll make a
amendment.
motion to approve your addition to clearly state the parking lot is to be utilized by community center park and park visitors only, and add signage for, you don't need that part, for no 24-hour parking, overnight parking.
So
I'll
that's a-
second that amendment to the community center usage policy.
John Andrews,
Yes.
Marcia Zebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 2B, we have a subdivision application from Schnicker. It was brought forth to the Park and Library Commission, and they recommend that we accept cash in lieu of land for the Schnicker subdivision.
Motion,
Well, has planning seen this?
It goes through all the channels before it comes here, yep. And really, if we make a recommendation to accept cash in lieu of land, it's because we have no use for future park projects at that property.
so I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Keep things moving.
Marcia Zebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 2C is another park dedication recommendation from Galloway, from the Galloway subdivision. This will be $3,000 in park dedication, and the Park and Library Commission recommends to City Council that cash in lieu of land be collected for the subdivision as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the Galloway subdivision request.
I'll
I second it.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Zebert Bowles.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 2D, back in 2019 in May, I brought forth a quote from XL Energy to extend the natural gas line to the garden garage and our maintenance shop. And council made a motion to put that project in a future budget. So in this year's budget, we have $10,000 for that extension. It came in just north of $10,000 as expected due to higher prices and supplies because of COVID. So I would like to take remaining funds from our truck and plow line item, which is $580.02, bringing it to a total of $10,580.02.
TJ, the furthest building, which is, I'm assuming, your maintenance garage?
Correct.
That's where your equipment and
That's where we store our trucks, our gator,
whatever.
yeah,
You need
all of
the
our
heat.
equipment, yep.
Okay.
And we looked into this, we have obviously propane at both sites, but when we went through a harsh winter 2 years ago, we had to make a rush call to refill our tanks because they were just getting drained like crazy. Cost us like $350 just for them to make a special trip because they were so busy. So stuff like that we want to eliminate.
I move that we put in this natural gas line.
I'll second it.
It'll also include the truck plow setup as well.
Well, that's surplus. That's to pay the
That's
balance.
surplus.
Yeah. That's to pay the balance.
Yeah.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Zebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. My last item here, 2E, HVAC replacements. Little history again. We have 9 HVAC systems in our facility, 7 of them being original to the building itself, making them 24 years old. The plan was to replace 2 units. That's kind of why I put the 24,000 in. We were able to fit in 3 units in the Thielen heating and cooling bid. So we're going to hopefully replace one of the HVAC units that is for the weight room and fitness room. The other unit provides heat and cooling to our office, hallway, and kitchen. And the third one would be for the locker rooms.
Are you having a lot of trouble with them?
We've had to do some maintenance on them. Actually, the guy from Thielen Heating and Cooling, he said he's been in the business for 15 years and he has yet to see one that old. So he said
24 years?
24 years old, yep. He said they're pushing their life expectancy to the limits.
So have you been having to do a lot of repair to them?
$1,000 here and there, yep. And I just don't want this to become 2-3 units in 1 year out of the blue. I kind of want to be prepared and
You're doing 3 in 1 year now, right?
Correct.
3 units here?
Yep.
Okay. My only thought is that we're spending so much money this year, do we want to try to squeeze another year out of them and not do it? So I'll let you guys talk about it. If you got any opinions.
Is this money?
It's in the budget, right? Yeah.
It's in his budget, yep.
Big deal.
Well, I don't want to penalize.
I think we should do these.
Yep. I'll make a motion, we approve his request to update his HVAC systems as described in this memo.
And I second it.
So you're approving Thielen's?
That was his recommendation.
I guess that's, yeah, and
I
is
didn't hear
Thielen's
you.
giving you,
I'm sorry.
is Thielen's giving you 3 furnaces for the price a little around what Cross Lake was for 2? Is that
Well,
kinda?
Cross Lake Sheet Metal, they came in at, the first unit was 9,263, the second unit was 8,822, so they were just over, quick
17,
math,
18?
yeah, 17, 18. And heating and cooling, their first 2 units were 15,4, so I looked at that, went back and said, hey, what would you charge for another unit? And it fit in with what we had in our budget.
Is Thielen servicing the community center now?
Well, they put in the HVAC systems originally.
Well, I guess this is discussion time. Do you want to make sure that you give Cross Lake Communication a good opportunity to come up with 3 prices? Or do we want to try to keep it local? Or do we want to get it out?
We can look into that. I can get an additional bid.
I mean, we've kind of committed to Cross Lake for both of these buildings. Now we got that. Do
Really,
we want-
the repair and maintenance, it's whoever can get there the quickest. I mean, sometimes Cross Lake Sheet Metal's out 3 weeks and we need a repair done as soon as possible. So I have to make calls to various companies so they can get there.
Well, that may be on a 24-year-old unit, but I think if you put in new units, that's going to be a little different.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, though, that you're not comparing 3 units to 3 units.
Yeah.
Now you've just let out the bid price, the quote price.
I can go back and get an additional bid.
Well,
That's not going to work.
And Cross Lake is doing this building and the fire hall. Unless there's a reason not to, but I don't know why we wouldn't give them at least a fair opportunity.
I can do that.
Well, wait a minute, we got 2 bids, what are you gonna do with Cross Lake Sheet Metal?
One bid is 3 furnaces,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and one bid is 2 furnaces. Cross Lake is 17,000, Thielen with 3 furnaces is 24,000.
well, but like Marcia said, they can see what this is.
Well,
Do you know why one bid one way and one bid the other?
well, they aren't broken down, Dave. This one here. Is it? I don't know. See, this one bids 3, that one bids 2. So
Yeah.
it's not apples to apples. You didn't ask Cross Lake for 3, yeah.
We were originally only putting in 2. That's why I only requested 2 at the beginning. And when I got Thielen's back, I thought, okay, maybe judging on how they did their bidding, 15.4, I simply just divided by 2 just to get a base price. And I said, okay, we could get a third one in for what we have in our budget. But I can certainly go back to
I
Cross
don't
Lake
know
Sheet
if that's
Metal.
a fair way to do it though, TJ. I mean,
Yeah.
Sorry, but,
You know, that's what I'm worried about.
yeah, well,
It's not a good practice, you know. I understand Cross Lake Sheet Metal's done a lot of work, they've done my house, but
But
you're not gonna
Thiel,
get anybody to bid if you're gonna do that in the future.
apples to apples.
Okay,
But the
well, whatever.
Thielen is the lower bid on 2 units.
Correct.
how do you know
You
that?
could, because it says it right there, 15.4, and this other one is
17?
17 something.
Right.
I mean, you have to add in your head.
Have you had good service?
It was right around 26.5 is what I came up with for the 3 from Cross Lake Sheet Metal.
Yeah, maybe we should just go with 2 units. That's,
We can do
that
that.
it's solved.
Yeah, well, maybe you should adjust
Yeah,
to 2 units.
we can do that.
Instead of having them rebid them, just have them take the third one out.
From Sheet Metal.
That's 15.
Or-
Yeah. I don't know if
Yep.
it is though with those ads underneath it.
Well, I know that's for the 3rd unit, though. Isn't it?
Well, I don't know. It's a good question. 1 unit is 8,300 and 2 is 15.4.
The 1 unit is bigger because it services our weight room and fitness room. Larger area and it runs more.
Okay, but that is the weight room and
Are-
the kitchen.
Are we
is
looking
the
at
top bid.
Thielen or are we looking at
I'm
Sheet
looking
Metal?
at Thielen.
Okay,
The top bid is the weight room and the kitchen,
correct.
15.4.
Yep.
So what is the next one that you did?
That's the add-on. That's when I went back to Thielen and said, okay, this is your price for 2. We have 4 more furnaces in the gym, and the one running the most is the locker rooms. Take a look at that one for me. What would you bid to replace that one?
So that
On
83
addition to the 15.4.
So the 8,300 is for the locker rooms.
Correct.
Okay, what about if we just went with the 2 units from Thielen?
Which is
And
15.4.
Then next year or the following year, whenever, you can add that 3rd unit? Or do you have more than?
We have 7 of them
Yeah,
are 24 years
so
old.
it's not like you don't have enough units to keep budgeting for them every year.
3 units serve just the gym because it's such a big area.
I'll make a motion that we go with Thielen's bid for. Oh, you do? Okay, I missed that.
Thielen, but the quantity is different, is that what?
Well, I'm thinking if we just went with 2 units. The 15.4.
Is that okay with you?
Mm-hmm.
Which 2? This is confusing.
15, the top 2. 15.
Weight room and
Those
office
are
and
the
kitchen?
highest
those are
priority
1
areas.
and 2?
Is
All
the
right.
15.4, the
We
first
still
two.
have money left to spend next year.
Yep.
Yes, for $15,400.
And John, do you?
Yeah, I'll change my motion to go just with 2 units.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
I gotta vote no, just because.
Dave
reasons.
Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, TJ. Mr.
I've lost the city council picture.
Huh?
We can still see you, John.
Got it.
He can't see us.
He can't see us.
Mr. Mayor, first thing is to set a cleanup day for the cemetery. Our suggestion is the week of the May the 10th to do the cleanup. We do this every year annually, clean up the cemetery with Char's help.
Who do you get to help you with that? Just whoever shows up?
My staff and Char.
You don't ask public to come if they want to, or no?
No, their job is to remove everything they don't want taken.
Okay, but so do you advertise this? and
Yes, it's
say
in, we want to
the term?
publish it in the paper.
And then we put a copy of this on the bulletin board at the cemetery too also.
Yeah. Okay.
I make a motion, you publish this notice.
I'll second it.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
The next item is, at its meeting of 4-521, the Public Works Commission voted unanimously to recommend to City Council approval of the construction cost sharing agreement with Crow Wing County for the bituminous seal coat for Daggett Pine Road and Perkins Road at an estimated cost of $19,160. I was asked a question by one of the commissioners at the meeting, and I have a little over 18,000, or 18,000 is in my annual budget. Remember, this is an estimate, so it could come in lower, it could come in higher, but this is the agreement with the county to get it done.
I'll make a motion that we approve the construction cost share agreement with the city of between the city of Cross Lake and the county.
I'll second that.
Okay, a little discussion. Phil, when you do a new road, is it recommended the first year you do this, you seal coat it, or is it in the first few years? Both of these roads were new last year.
It's in the first few years.
First few years.
Right. You know, it's great practice to do it when you can, but this is something that's changed. Marcia asked me this same thing, I think after Public Works, and that was the last few years, City Engineers Association with seal coating has recognized that it's better to do it sooner than later. A lot of old thought was you wait 7-10 years. What happens, you just get too much cracking, you get too much deterioration on the surface. So you get on it quicker, it's like painting the house. Keep your
But
sun
we all
down.
know my theory, right? And if you can not kick it down the road, but get the most use out of what you got and then do it on, are you better off in the long run? So we've got 1 year on these roads now. We're gonna seal coat them. We could really get 2 more years on them, or certainly 1 more year.
Possibly, yeah.
You know,
It's a city policy how you want to
Yeah,
choose. I
right.
mean, you could
I
pick
just wanted to ask
years
that
are 3
question
or
and
5
bring up
years
that,
down.
yeah, bring up that point. So we really wouldn't be jeopardizing anything if we delayed it for a year or so. Or if you want to go ahead, the motion is to approve it, so I just wanted to throw that in between.
I'm looking at it that we're not doing other constructions to any degree this year. Let's do this and have it done so it's not sitting on our slate the following years.
Okay, go ahead, Char.
I did just want to mention, they did get the bids in the end of last week, and they came in, it's like $16,000 100 or something.
Instead of 19
Those are just the bid jet though too, but it's lower than what they
Good
projected.
So it's covered by our budget this year, so. Okay.
Dave Schrupp,
Yes?
John Andrews,
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Again, I'm going to vote no, and it's just because I don't know that it's the best policy, but
Motion carries 4-1.
The next item is a recommendation to accept Bolton and Mink's proposal for clarifier, rehabilitation, and lift station controls. A motion was made by Tom Swenson and seconded by Dale Melberg to recommend to the city council proceed with the design of clarifier project and provide Bolton and Mink provided Bolton and Mink provide a submittal, a base proposal based on hourly rate not to exceed the $39,350. In the original proposal, it was a flat rate. In this, he put in task 1 and 2, not to exceed. If you read that.
Oh. Missed it.
It's there.
Yeah, it is.
So this would be for design, so we get started on the design of the project.
Page 1.
But task 139.5 is what we're approving, just that, to move that forward.
I will make a motion that we approve the clarifier rehabilitation design at an hourly rate not to exceed $39,350 with Bolton and Mink.
Second.
John Andrews,
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles,
Yes.
Aaron Herzog,
Yes.
Dave Nevin,
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The last thing is just information for the council. There was question on what we got for the dump truck and what we got for that surplus pickup that we had. We had $30,500 for the dump truck, and we got $10,301 for the other pickup truck.
Thank you, Ted.
So Ted, can I ask a question of Ted?
Sure.
And this relates to the clarifiers and the lift stations. And maybe Mike has to chime in on this, but do you have a schedule of how we're going to spend money? Because I don't know that we have enough money in our budget to do both of these, and I really appreciate you and TJ getting on your capital stuff early in the year, but I'm worried about the lift station controls that
Right now,
if
we're
we
just,
don't do anything with them, you know what's going to happen.
we started on the design. The design of the clarifiers is what
Right.
we started on.
Yeah,
The lift station controls, if we're gonna get started on that, we've got another hurdle. Stainless steel is in extremely short supply,
Right?
12 to 14 weeks just to get the steel to make the cabinets.
So that's why I'm bringing it up, because of COVID and lumber is short, and wouldn't it make sense that we have some similar move to at least get something rolling on
Do you have
the,
any backups now?
No.
No?
Well, I can't say no. Every lift station has a primary and a secondary pump, and they alternate primary, secondary, primary, secondary. So there's a duplicate set of controls in there, and all of the lift stations are supposed to be similar, so you could rob something to make something work, and I'm sure in a push to come, the Holden Electric or one of the electrical places could invent something to make us get by, but it would be tight.
so I was just trying to urge you to
It
get
is-
something rolling sooner than later because of what.
I'm working on it, and I've been working on it with John Groutman, so
Right.
yes, it is on
Yeah.
the horizon here.
So, I would like to address the fact that $270,000 for the American Rescue Plan, that we should designate that towards the sewer fund, along with the $150,000 that has already not designated, but has been earmarked for sewer, along with his $30,000 $30,500
For the
and
truck.
$10,000 truck, and designate that to the sewer fund too. So we might be able to get there. And I realize that half of that, and maybe it's not set in stone yet, but half of that payment, that $270,000 is half in May and half next year, I think.
And
But-
then, you know, these are like, what, $1 million between the two of them?
Yes.
So,
that's about $500,000 there she just listed.
so to do the clarifiers, you're gonna wanna be doing that, and you're getting the ball rolling, so we gotta keep that going, because that's a winter project when you can shut one down.
Mhm.
And it would make sense, you'd wanna swap out cabinets too. Maybe do some this fall and some next year, so.
And
I just
that's-
encourage you to kinda
That
put a
was one of
plan
their
together.
things they asked me is, do you want to do your primary lift stations, which is the three primaries, is the one at the shop, the one at Reed's, and then the one that's behind the old Piccadilly Pizza. Those are the three main stations that do the majority of the pumping. Everything else pumps to them. So maybe we do those three first and that's what we're trying to decide.
Yeah. Are you
Come back
looking,
with a
are you looking at working with them on buying all the stuff so we get a better deal on all the material in the cabinets?
No, that would probably just be a package from them. As far as the control panels, we would just be buying a package from them
Well, they said if you bought all 7 of them at one time, you get a better price.
Yeah.
And maybe you could work it out so they'll sit on some of them until we need them next year.
It's a question we can ask them.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve and.
It's all things we've been working on behind the scenes, so.
All right.
So Marcia, was that a motion that you made?
Well, I guess maybe we should have the or the confirmation or the certification of the $270,000. Have we got that certification? They're just saying that we're getting $270,000.
Okay, but we got that group of funds
But
that,
you can, I don't know, where did you put the $40,000 you just got from equipment? Has that went in the financial statement? I didn't see it.
No, that's an April item.
where is it going? What are you gonna do with it?
It goes into our general bank account.
Just general?
And what our original thought was on the truck, when we approved the purchase of the truck, since we were over budget, was that would replenish our general fund. So I guess I would encourage you to take a look at what you really need for funds to do those projects, because what you've designated is not enough to do what you're intending to do for Ted's purposes. So rather than designate those funds and then come back and say, well, we didn't have enough, we should have put more in there. You can use those to do that, but as far as assigning fund balance for those projects, I would take a really serious look at what do you actually need to do those projects, and then assign that, and then make the determination whether or not you want to issue bonds for it, depending on the amount.
Well, we can assign and designate those funds at the May meeting, right?
Right,
At the May
you can
10th.
designate what you've received, but you won't be able to designate what you haven't received yet.
Right.
Okay?
Right, and we can designate those funds at that meeting then. And that meeting notice should say assignments, designation of funds, and budget reallocation when you're giving out a special notice meeting. Because we're gonna cover all that, I believe. My personal opinion, that's what we're gonna cover.
Okay, moving on to public forum. Are we ready to do that? Action may or may not be taken on any issues raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issue will be placed on the agenda of a regular council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. At the discretion, speaker is given 3-minute time limit. Does anybody have anything? Mr. Vols, come on up.
Jerome Volts, 37668 Moon Beach Trail. I was informed that at our planning and zoning meeting, someone had COVID, and John and Cheryl were gone, but nobody else was informed about it. I thought we check in at the fitness center, we got to sign in every day in case someone tests positive so you can contact them. I don't know if that was not true, that it was at the planning and zoning meeting, or where. I'd like to have that clarified. Well, I don't know, whoever's gonna do it. Who was the one that supposedly thought it was at the planning and zoning? That's just, I heard, and it came from a pretty good source, that someone at planning and zoning had it. And I don't think it's very good that if it was there, that everybody didn't get informed.
Does anybody know anything about that?
The person that tested positive gave that information to the Department of Health, and it was up to the Department of Health to contact people.
Okay, and the Department of Health contacted John and Cheryl, I guess. I mean, has anybody else been contacted by them?
I didn't know anything about this, I never was.
I don't know how they work. I don't know how they're doing contact tracing.
I think we should probably find out.
Yeah, that is.
2 out of 15 of us. And we're all sitting right next to the guy.
It's a little odd in this paranoid world of COVID that a major announcement wasn't made once that was established. That's, because I was here too, and I never knew anything about it. It's a
I
little crazy.
think the city should assume responsibility for contacting people that are at a meeting that they knowingly know there was someone attending that had COVID.
Yeah,
I think
that
that's our
is a little odd.
responsibility.
So I think it's just common sense.
Yes, that too.
Who is the one that should contact? Who should we ask to contact the state? Is that you, Chip? Huh?
I thought everybody was contacted. I didn't know a thing.
No.
I just heard it right now.
So did the Department of Health contact you, John?
No.
Okay,
The individual contacted me, and I can't tell you who it is for HIPAA rules.
exactly. We know that. But if the employees were quarantining, that should have just been a big green light for you, for administration, to let the rest of the meeting attendees know about the COVID.
With all the precautions that have been taking
Yes.
place in this building for COVID, and closed down and shut down, it is
What makes
really alarming that the rest of us that were present did not get notified.
You mean employees were quarantined and other people in the room weren't told anything about it? Because I was in the room. I knew nothing about this. This is
Yeah.
new.
It makes us feel like we're not nothing. It's not right.
Yeah.
Do you want to get up and address that?
I think we should get some kind of comment from somebody on it, you know? Nobody's saying anything.
I mean, I just want to know that
What is the policy?
John and
Yeah.
Cheryl and Mike and all them that knew it, they think it's right that just 2 employees are notified of it and the rest of us are nothing.
Yeah, I agree, Jerry. We're not gonna get much input, it doesn't look
No,
like.
because nobody else is ever wrong.
Yeah. All right, well, I don't know what to do about that.
I'll put it in the paper.
Thanks for bringing it up. Okay, is there anything else on public forum? Okay, I'm sorry, Tom. God, I wasn't looking.
We just spent over $3 million on this building, and there's not a drinking fountain for the public in this building. You know, I know things can be overlooked, and after the fact, you had to put sound panels in here. Tonight, you're spending $2,500 to, fix this. I think spending $3 million on a public city hall building, there should be a drinking fountain for the public.
That is a crazy oversight. I don't know how. Yeah.
I'd say direct somebody to get a quote on what it's gonna cost. If you've gotta flush the toilets and all that with the sand, you're getting a plumber in here anyway, get a quote for what a drinking fountain is.
Or a bottle dispenser or something. Ted, you got something to comment on
Well,
that?
there should be something for the public.
In the design meetings, I specifically asked for drinking fountains, fans in the bathrooms, Somebody uses the restroom you're going into and getting blasted because there's not a fan in the bathrooms to take care of the odor. I asked for both of those things. It was totally ignored in any of the design, but I did ask for it. It's in my notes when I asked.
Yeah, it's funny that that got overlooked. But Andy's not there now.
It doesn't have to be Andy, you've got Northwood.
Yeah, right. Ted, can you think of that when they come in to look at the sewer, the well or something?
I'll ask him.
And any place in the general lobby out there, I suppose, even, you know, wherever it's handy.
You gotta have water and drains, so. Right now, you can't. Yeah, that's totally.
COVID isn't gonna be forever. Turn the water off, let's hope not.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you could get a price anyway that we could look at,
I'll work on it.
we'll look forward to that year when we can use them. Okay, city attorney report. Brad, what do you got?
The first issue, update on non-payment of lodging tax. I did write a letter based on the direction from council last meeting. I've not had a response, but I did ask for an explanation or feedback. I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for, Shar? Okay. So that's the first item. The second item, in the packet J2, there's 3 issues noted that we've talked about at our last closed session meeting that I think was on March 31st. And looking for a motion, I've got a proposed motion there of issue number 1. But looking for a council member to make that motion.
I will make the motion that we accept the following. Issue number 1 was a respectful workplace complaint that we received from an employee. The council met a couple times and we considered the respectful workplace complaint. We decided that no disciplinary action will be taken. The action that we did decide on was that the respectful workplace policy that's part of the employee's policy manual will be distributed to and reviewed by all employees, including department heads and administration, as well as members of the city council, city boards, and city commissions. Aaron Herzog and myself and Brad talked with Mike Linus before the meeting, and Mike's going to take the bull by the horns and get that policy to distribute it out to all people that were mentioned here. And again, that's employees, members of the council, city boards, and city commissions. So that would conclude what our findings were with respect to that. And it has to be something that deals with people understanding what's in our policy, reading it, and moving ahead with it. So
I'll second that motion.
That was a long motion.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Abstaining.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
I probably should have too, huh?
I didn't head you up. I was not paying attention, but we can correct the vote if you'd like to abstain now that I've
Yeah, I
caught you.
probably should.
Yeah.
Second issue that we published was and discussed was the complaint, a citizen complaint. The council considered the citizen complaint. The disciplinary action has been taken. This action was taken by Mike Linus, the city administrator, and has talked to that employee. And a copy of the action has been placed in his personnel file, and that would complete our action required for issue number 2. So the motion that I'd like to make is to log that response in relative to the citizen complaint.
I'll second that motion.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes?
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
The third issue that was listed on the memo from Mr. Persons is relative to union representation petitions, and it's really only for your information only. And the council discussed labor negotiation strategies and developments, and that's it. There is no motion required for that. And that concludes that.
And that's all I had under the city attorney report, unless there's any other questions.
Okay, any new business? Any old business?
I have something.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
I was wondering where we're at on that Trails and Sidewalks grant.
We won't know anything until after April 15th, when they decide.
Okay. I think the last time we asked about it was the end of March, so, okay. April 15th, is it? Okay, the other thing is, I was wondering, have the policies been started on the website yet?
I am still trying to pull all of the policies because there's policies throughout the city. Some I didn't even know about that were made before my time. So I'm trying to pull all those together. Then I thought I'd bring them to you and you can decide really which ones you want on the webpage.
Okay.
I have one question that I shared in an email. Is May a time when we can sit down and look over the financial, especially the capital items? TJ's got a good jump on his. I don't know that you have anything left to. One or two, but to see where we are.
Yep, we can do that.
Don't wait. So if we could set a meeting up before Memorial Day.
I thought we were doing that at the May 10th meeting.
The May 10th meeting is to discuss the audit and the results for 2020.
You want to pick a time?
I thought it was budget reallocations and designation of funds too, not? It's just for the financial audit?
It's for the financial audit, correct.
Okay, then we need to set up a special meeting for.
How much time would it take you to, given what you're? You want to sit?
Let's do it in April.
There isn't time before the May 10th meeting.
Correct.
We said at 6
Let's
o'clock.
do it after the week after the May 10th meeting, because then we'll have good beginning numbers, because that'll all be done by then.
Can you do a survey monkey, Shar, please? Take the time.
So your assignments that you have in here, that's what you're going to use on the financial audit? The ones you have for when you were proving that we had money for the microphones. You had the assignments in there?
Yeah, we had those assignments.
That's what you're going to use in the financial audit?
That is the recommendation, yes. And we're verifying.
We need to approve that before it goes into the audit.
You can approve them now if you want. I'd just like to verify them with the audit. I mean, this isn't a big deal. It's a normal process we've done every year since long before I was here. So these are balances that we've maintained and kept track of year after year, and that'd be our starting point to roll forward the 2021 balances.
But you do realize that the city council's got to approve them?
Yes, I do realize
the
that.
financial audit? Okay, and then there may be designated funds too that we want to do?
Is that a question?
No, that's a statement.
Okay.
So I don't know why we're doing it after the audit. Because then.
We're not approving them after the audit. What Mr. Schrupp was talking about to do after the audit was to look at where we're at through the point from the audit through today. Is that correct, Mr. Schrupp?
I
Okay.
just want to look at,
But that's all part of it, assigning the funds, designating funds, and reallocating the budget.
We can do that at that meeting. Because as an example, the clarifiers and the lift stations, there's very little money in there to do all of that this year, so we have to try to figure out what are we going to do, where are we going to get, it's just like we're going through the funds for the fire hall. Well, we don't have any money to do it, but we have certain things in the budget, either we're gonna do them or we're not.
I
don't
think
wanna
we
wait till
have,
the end
I
of the
think
year.
we have a lot of reallocating to do in the budget.
Right.
That's what I think.
Well, and that's why we gotta sit down and get everybody's input. All the staff to try to figure out where we are. I just don't wanna wait until August to do that, because it gets a little too late to do anything.
No, I would like to do it this month.
I don't know if you get, month's half gone here, so. That's all I have.
Whatever.
Move to adjourn.
Are you done with that conversation? Enough for today? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Aaron made a second.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog. Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.